Yep, it is episode 20 of the Gaming Memories podcast. And last episode, I made a little mistake ski saying that it was episode 20 when in fact this episode is actual the episode 20. Just a little error in policy, definitely not an error in doctrine, because as a holy prophet of the gaming gods themselves, there is no way that I would ever make a doctrinal mistake. And if you perceive that I have done such, that is your fault, and that's simply because you don't understand the mysterious ways of the gaming gods themselves. And as a prophet, Lord, seer and revelator above thee, to criticize me is to criticize the gods themselves. So, your fault that I said last episode was episode 20, when in fact this is episode 20. Good news though, I'm still on my holy mission to create the One True Gaming Memories podcast. As you all know, the gaming gods, Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost appeared to me in prophetic vision, commanding me to make the One True Gaming podcast. And to do so, all I needed to do was simply interview creative and interesting people about their favorite gaming memories growing up. And on this episode of the podcast, we have concept artist Kelton Cram. If you just give him a quick Google search, give him a Goog, you'd realize that homeboy has worked on a bunch of awesome movies and video games. Things like Star Citizen, which happens to be the most successful Kickstarter of all time, Pacific Rim, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Power Rangers, Ghost in the Shell, the American live-action adaptation, which I enjoyed, a lot of people didn't, The Great Wall, Max Steel, Independence Day, Now You See Me, Batman vs. Superman, Allegiant, Gods of Egypt, Jupiter Ascending. Ooh, Jupiter Ascending. My brother claims that's one of the greatest movies of all time. I made it 15 minutes in and I couldn't handle Channing Tatum with elven ears. I don't know. Maybe I should give it a second chance now that I know that Kelton worked on it as well. Hunger Games, TMNT, the motherfucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Edge of Tomorrow, one of my favorite sci-fi movies, Maleficent, Spider-Man, Noah, 300, Wolverine, the list goes on and on and on. X-Men, if it's cool, he's probably worked on it. But the crowning achievement of Kelton's resume is working on the Twilight Saga. I didn't get to ask him about that because I didn't know he worked on it until I did this intro after we recorded the episode. But damn, I would have loved to talk to him about working on arguably the greatest work of teen fiction, maybe ever. That might be the GOAT of teen fiction. Jokes aside, Robert Pattinson, I didn't like him because of Twilight, and I was a little worried about him being Batman. But then I saw a movie by the Safdie brothers. They're the ones that did Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler. Previous movie came out in, I think, 2017 called Good Times. Holy shit. Patterson can act his ass off, and I'm actually stoked to see what he does with Batman. So anyway, that's besides the point. We also had Todd Robbins on the podcast. He was on episode 1. He's one half of the YouTube channel Kuma Films. I will put links to both their shit in the podcast description as usual. Remember, spread the good news of the Gaming Memories Gospel. Tell your friends, family, your church, your dogs, your cats, whatever. Tell people about it. The gods will bless you. I say these things in the name of Miyamoto the Father, Kojima the Son, and Carmack the Holy Ghost. Amen, and enjoy the show.
Do you guys hate how you sound when you're listening to your
totally.
It's so hard.
Everybody does. Don't worry about it.
I can't watch any of my own videos that I make.
They told me in the studio once I sounded like the turtle from Finding Nemo mixed with a grandpa.
Everybody that comes in always they come in, they record the episode, they have a fun time when they record it.
Yeah, then they listen to it.
That was so much fun.
And they're like,
and then I post it, and they always mess me like, why do I sound so stupid? I'm like, dude, that's normal.
I can't
Can you
help
put auto-tuner on mine? So I'm like, the other day.
People just aren't used to their voices.
Yeah.
And now I've heard mine enough now, like when I do the intros. I'm over it. I get it.
You like it.
Yeah, I know. I just accept I sound like a dumbass.
It's good
fine.
to hear, though, because I notice a lot of, and it's my Tourette's, but, vocal tics. But, if I hear it, I can, maybe learn to stop it.
Get your mic a little bit.
Yeah,
get your mic a little bit closer.
My
Todd.
My little things and
it's pretty good. I think the levels were good. They sounded good. Welcome. So this episode has been one long time in the making. We have Kelton Cram. I'll do a little intro and just talk a bunch of awesome shit about you, make you sound like you're God's gift to mankind.
Oh, okay.
That'll come beforehand. But I always say, why should people care about what you think? What are you good at? What are you good at? Because I think I've heard that you're pretty good at some shit.
Is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. Just tell people who you are and why you. So generally, I have creative people.
Okay.
I've only had. I think you're the first. I had one guy that was like he did fan art. He does illustration. I think I messaged you.
Okay. Adam?
I connected you guys. No, Chase Henson.
Oh, okay.
He does like he's like doing this whole like fantasy world where he's reimagining like the Bible stories but mixing with Hindu stories and creating like a creation myth.
Wow.
And he does these like
awesome.
He does like illustrations, like books. Like you read a crazy book,
graphic
and he does,
novel
like, these
type of thing.
Huge illustrations. I showed him your shit and he liked it.
Cool.
And I think I messaged you guys on Facebook and linked you up. I can't remember. But he's the only other artist that's been on the podcast. Everyone else has been musicians or film guys.
Well, I'm happy to be here. And I've known Cade for a little over a decade now, I guess. We met in back in the day. And Todd as well. So I work in the Hollywood film industry as a concept artist, mostly costume, sometimes creature and environment. And I've worked on a lot of the kind of comic book based movies, DC and Marvel, and toy franchises. So Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, all that stuff.
Have you done any video games?
I have, yeah.
What games have you done?
So my first game back in the day was in the Aaron Sim studio, which was Infamous 2, I believe.
Dude. Did you know he worked on Infamous 2?
No, I didn't know you worked on Infamous.
I didn't even know you worked on it.
Yeah, that was like my first game, which was just like weapons and some costume stuff. And then
talk about how that like.
That was when you played in St. Louis, right? That was the one that you were like that was when you were binging in St. Louis? Was that Infamous 2?
That might have been 2 or 2 because 3 was there 3?
I remember you got it for your birthday and you were supposed to be selling.
Yeah.
You like spent like 3 days just
by the way, this is
Infamous.
Todd. He was on episode 1.
Yo.
He's one of the geniuses behind Kuma Films. He's gonna join back on.
Professional ninja.
Let's be real. No one listened to episode 1, and it was neither. I had never done a podcast. Like I didn't know how to carry a conversation.
I'm no one.
We were both. So he's back on. We've all been homies for a long time. But when you worked on Infamous 2, you said weapons.
Yeah.
How many prototypes or design ideas do you think you put out before they settle in on what's the ratio? 100 ideas to one actual weapon that makes it in game, something like that?
Yeah, that's probably correct. When I was on that game, it was my first couple months in a studio in Hollywood. So it was a film studio, but we took on some game projects, and so we kind of just forked out whatever assignment, and I was sort of the novice beginner artist, so they just put me on weapons for that. And then I did some of the transaction between how the bad guys form their armor, if I'm correct. It was kind of made out of ice and stuff, so I kind of helped on that. Yeah, I helped on like how the ice would grow. But I didn't know much about the game, and never like ended up playing it or talking to the client.
That's interesting. So you didn't... I would expect that people working in the game would know more about the game, but are you guys like compartmentalized? Yeah,
so for this, so basically the way game houses work, a lot of times they have in-house artists who are full-time that once stuff gets approved and is kind of getting, more elaborate, and they add or take away things based on budget. That can go on forever. But in the very beginning, when things are first starting, they'll outsource a lot of the concept design. And so we were just a concept house.
Oh yeah, that's when you worked for like an agency. Basically.
Yeah, for Aaron. Well, it's for Aaron Sims, the Aaron Sims company, which they do everything from games, film, 3D, toy print.
No, party foul. Todd just spilled some drink. That's all right. You know what? Quick pee break or drink break. Okay, we're back. We handled it. Situation under control.
That's my bad.
You were saying
that Todd's a ninja, and then he wanted to show us that he wasn't by doing something clumsy, but I think he did it on purpose.
That is actually funny. You are definitely the most ninja person here by a factor of at least 100x. But we didn't spill anything.
You can backflip over a moving car, but he can't pick his drink up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we were joking. If you guys don't know, if you haven't seen Kuma Films, Todd's a legitimate stuntman. He does ninja shit all day. So that's a good point. The most coordinated one here is the one that spilled the drink.
It was like literally right after.
Deliberate.
Like he's in.
He wanted to end the. Okay, so anyway. Infamous. That was my first game, and that was like 2008, 2010 or 2009. So it was a long time ago. But since then, I've actually worked on a few games here and there, like freelance. But then I actually worked in-house at a game company for a year.
Which company?
Cloud Imperium.
Cloud Imperium.
Yeah, and they're actually just doing one game, Star Citizen.
Oh, Star Citizen.
Yeah.
That's like been into. It's like I think it's the #1 Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Video game. Yeah.
So actually, #1 Kickstarter. As far as like donations go, the most they've ever made in one
campaign.
Yeah, so I think it was like 90+ million.
Whoa.
And then
Dang,
they got
that's
another
crazy.
200 million in investors after that. So they kind of had just this endless amount of income to start this game.
That would be great. I want to kind of touch on that because Star Citizen, I've played a few of like the prototypes.
Yeah.
But it's been heavily criticized by a lot of people in the sense of they mismanaged all that money. It's been in development for eternity. They have advertised a single player campaign with all these crazy actors and actresses.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's ever been finished yet.
Yeah.
And then so the rumor on like NeoGAF and some of the gaming boards, I guess the rumors are essentially money mismanagement, wasted time. Like, let's spend $60 million on this interface for the ship, and then they scrap it. And they waste. So is that how you?
So there's a lot of things I probably won't say as far as names go, but
yeah, we don't want that. Just let people know kind of what it's like to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but as far as like that project was supposed to come out, and then like you said, a lot of it had to do with just never-ending edits or changes, and even in the concept design department, some of the characters went on for like up to a year of just exploring options and trying to get passed off,
which could maybe be a good thing, like
for
you're
me,
spending time.
Yeah, it keeps you working, and yeah. So
is there an element of? I think you've talked about this with some Chinese stuff in the film industry. Is there an element of like we don't necessarily want to finish early because we want to keep getting money?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the grass is always greener. It's a double-edged sword. So if you get your design passed off relatively quick, it's usually what you want it to look like. You're happy with it. You want that in the game, and you feel accomplished.
You put that a little closer.
And you feel accomplished. Yeah. But if you are on the same character for like months and months, I mean, technically you're making money by doing it, but you get really burnt out on it, and you can feel drained on a certain character, like you've come up with every idea possible and they're still exploring. And so
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those situations where
how long did you work there for?
A year, yeah.
And so that was in-house, not with the agency?
Yeah, this was like an actual full-time job in Santa Monica, and it was a great experience. It's definitely different than the film world I was working in, so it was nice to have a taste of sort of a different approach. Mainly, the difference with film and game is that you get a lot more time to finesse your character and your design in a game, mainly because they kind of control the budget. Obviously, with a film budget, it's the studios that want to limit that as soon as possible and try to save that money instead of just keep spending. A lot of directors want to just keep designing forever and spend all this money, and the producers are constantly pulling them back and saying, we need to try to get this passed off.
So that leads me to a question. We're getting off topic, but it's making me think.
Yeah.
You hear a lot of people complain that like, oh, these studios don't, like they're putting too much control, or they're holding the creative reins for all these directors, and it's the studio's fault. It's the studio's fault. But you kind of hinted at like they have to, otherwise these guys would just endlessly cycle through. And
which is exactly what happened at Cloud Imperium, like you said, where if one, the phrase like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So that's usually the case with film, is you have to please the franchise, the investors, or whoever's putting the money up the producing side, and then of course the distributor, which is the big studio like Warner Brothers, and getting all them to pass it off is one thing, and then the director is ultimately the one to say yes or no. So it can take forever before everyone agrees on something, and when it's one person controlling all of that, usually you end up with a better movie or a better product. But sometimes that person can just endlessly spend. Yeah.
Yeah, it can go off the rails. And maybe not put the numbers where they look good for business.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's interesting.
Like James Cameron, for example, he's kind of in control of everything.
But doesn't he fund his own?
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's his own money.
Endlessly spends his own money.
I'm the one. It's my money. I can spend it how I want.
Yeah.
I can get it in a ship.
But he also knows exactly what he wants.
Yeah.
Instead of a lot of people.
Didn't you work on Avatar?
No, I almost did a couple times.
What's the word on all these Avatar films that are supposed to be coming?
Yeah,
they're making them right now.
Yeah, they're
I know
making
some friends who are doing work on it.
Yeah.
Well,
you got some homies. We scoot back. You're way too far away. Get close to the mic.
Yeah, no, it's just like different friends that are on doing stunt work.
Part
on
2
it.
Probably. They're in production right now. Part 2, which they've already introduced, is going to be technically underwater, and then they're set to make 3, 4, and 5. So they're already starting to design those ones.
Are they? So
they're just going to shoot them straight through, aren't they?
The gap between 2 and 3 is not going to be as long time-wise as 1 and 2?
So the way the budget, I believe, as far as what I've heard, is they're set to make 2 and 3, and then based on how well they do before they start production on 4 and 5. So, but I think if they go as scheduled, they'll just be releasing all the way till 2025.
Trying to get them back to back.
Yep. Yeah.
Harry Potter it.
Yeah.
What do you think the odds are?
Bloody hell, Harry.
What do you think the odds are of an Avatar video game? Do you think someone's going to try to cash in on that?
Oh, I'm sure they're probably already selling the rights for it. But yeah, that would be a great idea. As far as I know,
the dragon flying with the bow and arrow, like you know how
that
you fly, like you link to the dragon. That could be fun. What
was that old the
Panzer Dragoon? Yeah, I could play like that.
Play like that.
You hook your VR helmet to the wall.
That would be fun. Have you guys ridden the Avatar ride at
I've heard it's dope
Animal
as shit.
Kingdom?
Yeah, I heard it's awesome.
It's way fun, dude. I waited 3 hours to ride the damn thing.
It was still worth it?
For 3 hours? 3 hours once, yes.
Yes, okay.
I would never wait 3 hours to ride
pass.
it again, but I would wait an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's that's pretty average nowadays, but it's super fun. I remember I was riding it, and my wife was right next to me, and then my homie Barton, Craig. Mm-hmm. Craig was to the left of me, and my wife, it was to the right. And I remember just if you put it on, they strap you down forward, so you're kind of riding it. Yeah. Like a horse. And then underneath, they have this machine, it breeze. So it feels like you're riding it. Yeah. It's so cool. They have this big old TV that's a 3D because you're wearing 3D glasses, and then you're basically like a mechanical bull basically. So moves and stuff. So it feels like you're flying.
That sounds like California screaming, but you're on your own
way
individual.
Better.
Yeah.
And it's and all of a sudden they start putting different weather effects. So you'll go through a waterfall. You'll go down and pass it, and they spray a little bit of water and blow wind, and it's really gets you immersed. And it's I remember the first drop, I'm and everyone's screaming. I looked at my left, I look at Craig and my wife, and big old grins, dude. Everyone's having just the freaking time of their life, dude. It was pretty fun. I really liked the ride.
That reminds me of what's that movie where the dude he's Ben Affleck's giving the speech about making money, and he says, "You think money can't buy happiness? See this fucking smile ear to ear." And he's trying to pump these guys up to smell. It's Boiler Room, I think it's called. It's a stock market movie, but that would be a great commercial for Disneyland. Someone's face on that ride. Who says money can't buy happiness? Yeah. And it's someone on that ride just dude, yeah, baby.
Dude, I love it, dude. I was the whole time, dude. Yeah, my mouth hurt when I got off the ride.
That
just
sounds fun. Because I love that California Rolling or whatever.
Yeah, if you like that, it's basically that, but way better.
Way better, yeah.
Because it's 3D, it moves. It's way
Do you know
cool.
guys that design shit for theme parks? I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Who does all that?
A lot of designers work on all that stuff. I've actually done some stuff for theme parks in China.
Really?
What's
that like?
It's very similar as far as getting an idea through of what it's going to look like, and then once that gets passed off, it will go into engineering where they actually have to make it work. And I haven't stayed on a project long enough to see it come to life.
Let me get a little closer, by the way.
But I know that like
Sorry.
China had this sort of outbreak of not coronavirus, but they had an outbreak of.
Speaking of,
yeah.
did you? I think you posted it. Have you guys seen the Raccoon City, the umbrella logo?
No.
Conspiracy theory with the coronavirus. Do you know much about Resident Evil, the video game?
Yeah, bits and pieces.
They're saying the coronavirus is going to
Basically, you can look this up. This is real. I thought it was bullshit.
the beginning of the end.
So the idea of Resident Evil is this company called Umbrella is like experimenting with biochemical weapons and shit. It has an outbreak, and that causes a zombie outbreak that is like the main catalyst behind the games. Well, the Umbrella Corporation's logo kind of looks like just like this hectagon or octagon umbrella. Well, in the coronavirus, Raccoon City is where the fake city, Raccoon City, where Umbrella had this outbreak.
Yeah.
Corona is I think it's an anagram. Like you can rearrange the words Corona to spell raccoon. And there's in the city where the outbreak west. What is the city?
Oh my God, Wuhan.
Whatever, Wuhan. Yes.
Yeah.
There is a company, a chemical weapons or bioengineering company
goddamn.
that has the exact same logo.
Really?
That part
I
is
knew
real.
it.
That part is real.
I wasn't worried about this before, but now I'm all
No, I'm
freaked out.
telling you. You can. I mean, we can't look it up because this computer's weird right now. But I looked it up. Like,
That's crazy.
I don't know if there's really a connection, but there is a chemical company in the city where the outbreak started, named whatever it's named. It's in Chinese, but it has the exact same logo as Umbrella Corp
What?
from fucking Resident Evil. That is for sure real.
That's
Coincidence? Maybe.
That's kind of terrifying. What if, dude?
It's probably just a coincidence, but goddamn, it's so much funner to believe that there's it's way funner. It's way funner. I love conspiracy
All I know
theories.
is a lot of my friends in LA right now are like taking it seriously. They're wearing masks and stuff.
There's a breakout in
USC or something.
Yeah. By one of our family friends lives out.
Irvine area.
yeah, around
There's a lot
Irvine.
of Chinese.
Yeah, the Chinese area.
Yeah, I'm a little bit
There's
worried because my
Chinese
kid
friends
lives
from
down
China.
there. But I was just gonna say about the amusement parks is they decided to make like thousands of them, and then they didn't finish a lot of them. If you guys have been to China, I know Todd has.
I
but,
haven't
like,
been. Yeah.
Yeah, they the way the laws work there is they'll start building something before they have all the funding, and then run out and just leave it halfway built forever.
So you have all these like haunted, abandoned.
They look like dollhouses that are open in the back, or like people live in them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the amusement parks, I heard they start building them and then just never finish them, and they just look like haunted, crazy. It'll be good for this post-apocalyptic outbreak that's going to happen.
Yeah,
in
like places
all these
to go hide.
all these half-built amusement
Yeah.
parks. It's like a real video
That'd
game.
be great. I mean, that's creepy. Just I have seen. There's a famous abandoned amusement park. Well,
Chernobyl.
that's not.
That is one.
Is it by
Oh,
Chernobyl?
Yeah, there is one.
Yeah, that's the one
There's like
that's-
a Ferris wheel.
That's where you in Modern Warfare 2.
Merry-go-round and
You
stuff.
play
Yeah,
the
yeah,
stealth
Chernobyl.
mission ends in Modern Warfare 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. And I think the end of there's a movie I think called Annie or Anna. It's like she's a child super soldier and she escapes from the government.
Yeah.
And then the finale, she's in this I think it's
Is it a
the
newer
same
movie?
amusement. I think it's
It's Prime. It's
Annie or Anna or-
it's streaming. Yeah, Anna.
Anna.
well, there's a new one. I think there's been.
Wait, I'm
3
thinking of
versions
Hannah.
Hannah.
Hannah?
Oh, yeah.
Fuck, I can't remember.
There's a new movie that you're talking about. It's not streaming because it was on the airplane, but it's called Anna. But I think it is about like a girl that grows up and
Maybe it's.
It might be a remake because I know there was
Look it
one.
up.
There's been I think a handful. I think it was originally a comic book.
yeah,
But
probably.
she's like a child super soldier. She escapes from Russia, some Russian program, and she's on the run. And the movie is basically just her escaping. That's
Okay.
it. Nothing. I think there's more. I think there's a whole world and lore built to it. Why would you build how does it work? Why do they build it and not finish it?
because
they don't have the funding
Yeah.
But why
completely yet,
start
right?
Well, like in the States, for example, there's laws where they wouldn't start a project till they know it can be paid for, because the way contracts work. But yeah, in China, they can just start building things without even having all the funding, and then it will.
They're just like so excited to get it started. They're just like, oh yeah, the money will get there.
Yeah,
We'll just get started.
Have you done what? Did you do other games after Cloud Imperium?
Yeah. And we can talk more about that later because that game was a lot of fun. But I'll tell you, some of the details. But as far as since then, I worked on a game 2 years ago, or actually last year, maybe year and a half ago, called Meet the Pixels, which is Nickelodeon's game that is going to have a TV show.
Oh,
as
that's
well.
the family you were telling me
Yeah.
about. You designed
Designed
the Incredibles family.
Yeah, so I don't know the details of it, but it's going to be a TV show that is broken down into a family of 5, and each family member is from a different video game. But when they're off duty, they are at a house together. So it's kind of like The Incredibles meets Wreck-It Ralph meets Married with Children.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah, it's like when they're home and they're fighting together, but they all like look a little different based on their game graphics.
Are they gonna have a game for each member?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. So like the actual video game that family member is from in the TV show, they'll have Nickelodeon will sell
That
the video
connects
game.
them all. Yeah.
And I think they're like ongoing games that'll have expansion packs that play along with what's on the
Dude,
TV show.
That's genius.
If that hits, that's gonna make so much money.
Yeah,
If
so it's a big idea. Yeah, and so basically,
so much money. It's like freaking DLC
every
every time. Every episode's DLC.
Yeah. So
well, that's cool. That's never been done. The idea of connecting multiple games to a same universe in a TV show. Yeah.
There's 5 members of the family. Mom and dad and 3 kids, and they wanted them to be what's called a blended family, which I didn't really necessarily know what that meant at first, but it could be like a broken family where there is step kids and half siblings, and then also multiple races. And it's basically because we, in nowadays world, like so many families are like that. So I've told you this story before, but the executive said make
Keep
it
your, you gotta say it.
the executive
it doesn't
said
pick up from the side.
Here
My
we go.
bad.
Is this better? He wanted a blended family, so in this pitch there was a board meeting, and I just said, I kind of have a blended family because my wife is quarter Lebanese, my stepkid's quarter Mexican, and then I have a half Chinese son, and he's
so
like,
you get it.
So he says, perfect, let's do it. Yeah, so I just used my own kind of family dynamic to make the characters. And so,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So if that series really takes, that'll be special for you.
Yeah, and then they kind of look a little bit like my stepdaughter and my son, and so they think this TV show's about them.
Oh, they're probably stoked as hell.
Yeah.
Do you get like royalties for developing stuff like that when it's like more on that base?
No, I mean the way contracts work for any type of design is just set rates, and I mean it's similar to like anything that like Disney ever made. Someone designed those characters, but they're not getting any royalties off of it. They're all just part of a giant team.
Disney will.
Yeah.
And they will sell toys till the end of time.
Yeah, about the only way you're going to get anything royalty or like residual income off your idea is if it's literally your IP and you sell it to the studio directly.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, which is like the hardest thing to do,
Because they know, well,
they'd rather steal it from
question.
you.
So obviously movies and video games are in this phase where we're recycling ideas a lot because that makes your probability of success a lot higher, right?
Yeah, like,
and you've seen a bunch of IPs just get die. Like you've talked to me about in the past.
Yeah, so
cool ideas that
super
just die.
cool ideas. One of the aspects of like doing concept design in the industry is like 90% of what you're doing is pitches, trying to get things greenlit off the ground, whether it's a game or a streaming series or a movie. And so like 90% of them don't make it, but they're amazing. And a lot of it is like you said, they don't want to take the risk, or they want to recycle something that's similar to it where it's theirs.
That way they make more money.
One show, it's funny because I worked on have you guys seen The Umbrella Academy?
Yeah. The one with Ellen Page.
Yeah.
That sounds so familiar.
You should check it out. It's awesome. It's based on a graphic novel. The guy who was behind it was like his baby, was trying to pitch it to make it into a movie 10 years ago. I helped develop a lot of the characters, so I still had the artwork. And then Netflix finally picked it up, and it was amazing. It was an awesome show. And
so something you worked on 10 years ago finally saw the light of day.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun to see.
Wow.
This was this guy's baby. He loved it so much. He wanted to make it. Never happened. I just thought that was another amazing project that fell through the cracks. And then to see it come to life and how successful it was on Netflix is awesome. Because we live in an age now where with streaming, a lot more things can get produced and greenlit.
That's true.
They'll back anything, Netflix. So.
Dude, and Netflix does have such a wide They have so much content.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much content they have. Have you guys ever surfed someone else's Netflix account where the algorithm's tooled?
Yeah.
And you're like,
How
where
do
the
they get
fuck
all these
did all these
shows?
shows come from?
Yeah,
Like I've
right?
never ever seen this show on my Netflix. How?
Yeah.
Like how?
I'm getting stuff from like probably because my wife watches Netflix
Yeah.
on there, but I'm getting stuff from like Taiwan.
Yeah.
Like,
Awesome.
horrible soap operas, like shot
Stay
so
close to
bad.
the mic. I know I'm
So
on your guys'
bad.
ass. It's just, yeah.
Well,
It's so
you know,
hard.
Yeah, it's so
sometimes
weird,
I
like,
feel like the
content from
profile
everywhere.
that I developed was a lot of hard work, years of
Yeah.
specifically picking and watching, and then of course my kid deleted my account, and it was all for nothing. It all disappeared.
It's hard to
Netflix
curate
has
that.
a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
all right.
Then you get decision fatigue just trying to find a show.
Speaking of like,
That's a real thing.
But dude, Netflix is like spending like what 17. I heard like
quadrillion.
I don't know, some crazy. I don't want to say billion, but because I don't know if they have that much money, but some ridiculous amount, 170 million or something on just like content.
Oh yeah, they're constantly outsourcing. You know, like
They're
they're
spending so much
investing
money.
in a more
Yeah,
original
but
content.
they're like not profitable yet. Apparently, apparently they're still like losing money, right? I
well,
don't know.
it might
Or-
be one of those Amazon. Like Amazon apparently lost $426 and got $22 million back in tax refunds.
Oh.
So it might be like, yeah, we spent all. I don't know.
I feel like all these companies are really good at playing the long game.
Yeah,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Example: Netflix when they first came out, how it was a lot cheaper, and
was it $5, $3?
yeah, and slowly once they get everyone signed up for it, where that's your only option, then they can just start raising the prices.
Yeah.
And not only that,
Slowly.
everybody got rid of cable, and they knew that would happen. But in the beginning, you know, it took a while for them to get to that.
Well, if you think
Yeah.
about how much, remember when Netflix originals first came out? Like there wasn't that many, and they were usually really good. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'd always like, yeah, Red End, sweet, all the originals good. Now like 80% of Netflix, at least my recommendations, are all Netflix originals.
Yeah.
And they do a shit ton of anime. Like
Yeah.
how many original Netflix animes are there now?
Yeah,
There's like
tons.
30 or
Yeah.
40, and they're doing that with every. Yeah,
So
that
they,
makes
Every
sense.
genre.
when they say it's a Netflix original, are they just like licensing it and they're the first to
Netflix
license it,
paid
or
for
did
the
like
production.
they pay for or they pay for the production to make that anime?
So,
how does that work?
for one, as things come out on Netflix and get bigger and bigger, of course, theater releases are going down as far as like the money invested in that, because you can make so much more off of streaming now.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because of globalization, it's like really they just need to make something do well in China, and it doesn't matter if it does well at all anywhere else.
Yeah, if you can get
So
in,
really, all that
basically.
matters is that demographic right now.
And you were
so-
telling me it's because
yeah.
China only has a set amount of movies
What, like
released
10 or
a year.
15.
Yeah, yeah,
So
they
if
have a
you're one of those
contract.
movies,
Yeah,
instant cash money.
Yeah.
It's like Venom
so it's
made over
becoming
$1 billion.
political. Yeah,
Yeah, Venom didn't really like make
Yeah.
a ton of money here in the States, but
Right.
went to China, made
Yeah.
over $1 billion, and
Yeah.
that's why Venom 2 is being made.
Tom Hardy.
Hey, it was okay.
It wasn't. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
It wasn't
It was
what
fun.
I wanted
Yeah.
from a Venom movie. But
I was hoping it to be darker because it's going to
Yeah.
be like rated R.
I
at
wanted
first.
to be darker.
And there's hints of like what it could have been.
And Tom Hardy's the perfect dark horse.
Yeah.
He can. Like, you've
he
seen
pulled
the...
off it. He pulled it off well. I thought
What's
his
that
like
movie where he's
Eddie
the
Brock-
fighter?
Oh, the fighter. No, wait.
Bronson.
The fighter?
Bronson,
Bronson.
Is it called Bronson?
where he's in jail in the UK and he's like naked.
There's
most of
another
the
one
show.
where he's like
No,
the
he-
UFC one too.
He's
where-
a UFC one where he's a fighter and he fights his brother who's like a geometry teacher
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
finale. Some bullshit. But he played like this like dark horse war veteran that never spoke. He'd like walk in the ring, knock the guy out, not do any interviews, walk right out. That was his character. So I thought that's what he'd be, the version of
That
for
was
Venom.
the prequel to Venom.
That's what I wanted. The prequel. Yeah, but no. Did you hear the rumors though that that movie Life was
Life,
supposed
yeah.
to be the prequel for
It
Venom?
could have been
Did you hear
perfect.
that?
The one that Ryan Reynolds
Yeah,
is
Ryan
in
Reynolds,
outer
Yeah,
Jake
the
space.
Gyllenhaal.
sci-fi where they find the alien.
It would have been perfect actually. Like if they would have been smart enough to actually like
Yeah.
or unless they were smart enough and that is like the actual truth. But if they didn't really think about that, like they could have
It could have
totally been
Yeah.
easily. That's
It's
like-
hard to come up with something new, I'll tell you that, because everything has been done or
Redone.
considered or something similar has, you know.
Well, everything
Yeah.
everything is a remix at this point.
Yeah.
But it's can you remix something and make it fresh again?
Yeah, it's still about the storytelling.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Have you ever considered? And if you don't want to talk about this one, because like I don't know like how close to the chest you have like your own stuff, but like remember like way back in the day you showed me your Chronix
Yeah.
like comic book. Like,
Yeah.
I was
I
actually,
remember that. That was
Yeah.
that
like
was
the
dope.
design was pretty. Like,
Yeah.
I thought the design was dope. Like
Give,
the
let
idea
people, give people
was
the
cool.
gist of your chronics. Okay, you gotta remember this was way before weed was where it is now.
So okay, there's still a window to possibly make this A, and B. The story is definitely something you could turn into like a cinematic, story. So I wrote a comic book in college, and it was
That's dope
kind
as
of
shit. I
it was
remember
kind
reading
of comical. And first of all, let me just say, like, talking about having your own IP and stuff. This wasn't like my baby that some grand movie I want to make someday. This was kind of just like a side story that I wrote in creative writing and then ended up illustrating it for school. And then it did well, and Dark Horse wanted to pick it up, and I did other things with my career at the time, so I kind of let it go. And then a snowboard company bought rights to all the graphics to put on snowboards. So I have all the comic graphics are on snowboards that came out like 15 plus years ago. So it kind of died after that. But anyway, chronic marijuana. That's where the name comes from. So the story's pretty cool. Do you want me to give you the rundown?
Yeah, give us the rundown.
Yeah, so basically, it starts off in present day, which is really like about 2020. So like now, this guy.
What year was this when
I wrote it?
Yeah,
like 2002, 2003.
So this is you trying to imagine what the world will
like
be
the
like
future.
in 20 years.
Yeah.
How accurate are you to the reality?
But I didn't get that far into the
Okay.
details. But basically, it's like the present in the story is 2020, and then we go back in time and start having flashbacks. And I only wrote the first comic, but it's about how this character, Lou Alphonse, that's his name. He he is adopted by a Jamaican mother and raised with Jamaican brothers, and he's like the white Rastafarian kid.
Okay.
So that's like who he is in life and who he's become, and the story is really about like him and his daily adventures, like in high school, like any other kid. But on the side, he has these superpowers, and he's like saving the world one problem at a time. But this is the origin comic of like how did he get his powers in the first place? So. Long story short, we go back into so this guy shows up at his door, and the mom's like shocked to see this man in a wheelchair, and he says, "I'm here to see Luau." She brings her son to the door, and he says, "I knew your parents, and I got to tell you like who you really are." And he pulls out a joint.
Wait, but he's living with Jamaicans. He's already smoking
but
weed.
we don't know at this point that marijuana has become fully illegal because it was used as warfare to kill and wipe out, eradicating like half the population of the world. So they use marijuana to basically take out the population, because the problem is that the population gets too big. They need to have a new way to save the world.
So they like lace the marijuana with...
Yeah, so basically he gets him high.
So you're basically telling the Illuminati how to control us.
Yeah.
If you're listening.
Yes, they call it the outbreak of 420. So basically, because they do it on 420, like the date. That's when they release it into the public. So he gets him high. He said, he pulls this joint out and he says, "Hey, smoke this." And he's like, "I can't. That'll kill you." Because in the future, everyone knows
everyone's scared of the
marijuana will kill you.
Yeah,
He says, "No, just trust me." So he blazes it. And he starts showing him his superpowers, like supervision, super hearing, and he goes through all his powers and shows him how he's like this super powerful. But he gets his power from getting high, and the more high he gets, the more powerful he gets.
It's like drunken boxing.
Yeah, so his suit is like made out of weed and a gas mask and like bongs that like hook through tubes, and like it's just keeping him high as fuck, So anyway, he says, how did I get like this? And this is where we cut into the past, and he says, your parents were part of this research project set up by the government on the island of Domer. Department of Marijuana Engineering Research. Domer. I can't even say it. So he's out on this island, and he's a baby at the time. And they're trying to use marijuana to save the world, because you can grow food faster, and it gives energy, and they're turning it into energy and food, and it's supposed to save the planet. But the bad guys, the elite
evil corporations
dark,
or
whatever. Yeah,
type.
the Illuminati, let's say. They don't want that to happen because that's going to, bring harmony to everything and they're going to lose their money. So they're like, instead, let's turn it into biological warfare and use it to wipe out half the population, thus getting the same result and saving the world. So the parents are doing their testing on their own baby, and which is giving him superpowers. And he would have been superpower, like a superhero. But there's another scientist who is taking the baby and doing the reverse effects on the baby to try to turn it into biological warfare because it's not happening fast enough on the adult subjects. So this gets this baby and it doesn't do anything to the baby because all it's doing is reversing the baby's powers and making him back to neutral. So he's mad it's not working on the baby, and then the parents aren't coming up with a cure fast enough. And long story short, this bad scientist is in love with the mom and ends up killing the dad, and they find out that the bad guys are going to turn it into biological warfare, and so they try to get the message out. And the fourth scientist, this guy named Skiffy, who's the guy that shows up at the door in the first scene,
the old
goes
guy,
and gets the baby and gets him off the island in time, and then they blow up the island and kill the parents and wipe out any information,
all evidence,
all the evidence, and then they release this plague and it kills all these people. In the meantime, Skiffy takes the baby and drops him on the door of this Jamaican lady, who you find out later adopts him, and that becomes his mom. And then we hop to the present, and
then he shows back up at the door. That's kind of like
so he shows up 20 years later. Yeah,
that's like Harry Potter
every
Harry Potter.
superhero.
Yeah, dude, that's like Harry Potter before Harry Potter. Like the mysterious child, the Snape, it's like you're the OG. They stole from you.
I think they did. They might have.
Dude, I think that's a lawsuit, bro.
Yeah. Do you have copy? I guess you do because you sold the Tech 9.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I was listening to Kevin Smith podcast while we're on this tangent really quick.
I promise we'll talk about video games eventually.
Yeah, Kevin Smith does Chronic. He does Chronic and Blunt Man. Kevin Smith, he has a comic, Chronic and Blunt Man. That.
Oh yeah, but actually it's different. It's like he was doing his podcast and there's a section where the audience can ask questions or whatever, and he kind of asks people about ask people about themselves. But some guy came up, asked him a question, and he said that he asked him what he did, and he wrote a comic, and the exact same premise is Chronix. Yeah. But it's it was a ninja. Yeah. Basically, and whenever he smokes and gets high, then his powers get more powerful as well. A very, very similar premise. I'm like,
dang it.
I wonder if he was snowboarding as well, and he saw your thing, and that's where because this is maybe recent. Yours is forever ago. Yours is so old. I don't know if it's how the concept.
Because when you showed me Chronix in the MTC, you were like, this is already old and dead.
Yeah, it was honestly, if you don't come out with your idea right away, someone already has.
Okay.
And especially 20 years later. But the fact is, you could still take that story and adapt it to the screen just like anything. Yeah. And I think there's
you can flip it. Yeah.
There's a huge demographic for people who are promoting CBD and all that crap right now. That the awareness is a lot different than it was 20 years ago. I was thinking, because my mom even said to me, she's like, is this something you really want to promote? And I had to think about it. Maybe I don't want that to be my legacy.
My legacy,
And so I kind of let it fall through the cracks.
I was thinking about doing if you made it a fan film, because I'm always thinking random, small, budget, indie stuff that I can do with my buddies who are in the stunt industry. And then I thought about doing Chronix, that'd be a cool original idea.
Dude.
But at the same time, I would love to.
Yeah.
It'd be funny. But then I constantly think my parents are hella Mormon.
Yeah.
So I was how do I explain this project?
Hey, talk closer to your mic.
So
we have to wait 10 more years.
Yeah, until it's more normalized.
Tell your parents.
I think your parents would be chill, man.
You think it's funny?
Maybe, I don't know. They're both your parents.
All my family's super Mormon. So it's the one project I have to keep on a DL.
Worried about extended
they would
family.
never show it's I can't show my little kids because all my family's my kids love your videos.
Your YouTube channel.
How do I explain that to them?
Yeah.
But the idea is dope. I actually think the idea is really cool.
It's a parody, and you're cashing in on it just like anyone else is.
Super hyped right now,
and
almost overhyped.
I don't think it's necessarily promoting marijuana as much as making fun of it.
Yeah,
and it's any superhero story,
it's a parody on everything.
Well, you could make fun of all aspects. You could poke fun at all the negative aspects in the both, just, we all know potheads of different types.
Yeah.
Right. There's the white, when you said he was a white kid raised by Jamaicans, I'm like, oh, I know the white suburban kids that wish they were black.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And they were into Bob Marley, grew dreadlocks, and they were like, dude, you're from Wisconsin, bro.
Right.
Just
See, that was going to be part of it too,
Yeah.
because it's really based in like your day to day. Him and his brother at school, like just being your regular kids, getting in trouble. But then on the side, Skiffy keeps showing up, putting the chronic suit on him, getting him high, and he goes off and saves.
and has him save something.
Yeah, all these different world problems that he addresses.
It's kind of like the Persona series too, whereas.
Like Spider-Man too.
Like you have to live this double life. You have to manage being a superhero and a regular person. That's part of Spider-Man as
you
well.
can find a way to do it in the vein of like Kick-Ass, like, with that tone, but like obviously like not
that's
exactly
true.
like that.
Kick-Ass is a good example.
And it
it's a comedy, but it's dark.
More.
Yeah, it's like more
maybe,
mature themed.
Yeah, he has like insecurities like in his daily life, and then he blazes it.
But he blazes and becomes Superman.
And like, of course, what do you think his weakness is? Delicious snacks. so like
people tempt him?
he's on the way to this one mission, and
they distract him with.
No,
he goes past the bakery and smells.
This is where Todd comes in because we need some parkour ninja like flipping around with a bong like throughout the city rooftops, and then he's like smells a pie. He's like. So he goes and he eats this delicious pie, and then he like does his next flip and doesn't even make it like halfway, and just hits the ground because he's all like coming down, and he's got he's tired now.
Yeah.
And Skiffy shows up and he's like, "I told you." I couldn't help it. It was so delicious.
Makes Kick-Ass with Pineapple Express, and then
or he could like just forget where he's going, get distracted.
Yeah.
And it's like Skiffy has to constantly remind him, like, this is where you're fucking going.
He's like his Alfred.
No,
like, come on,
you can't. No, don't go there. No, don't go in that store. No. We're out of time. No.
A smirky like Alfred for him.
Yeah. He'd be like an Alfred type character.
Like he shows up to the big boss, and he's like about to save the day, and the guy like pulls out like a Krispy Kreme donut. Like, he's like,
or
his kryptonite.
That could even be like, you could go as hardcore as Scott Pilgrim. Like, make it really...
Dude, that'd be awesome,
campy,
actually.
That movie is a classic.
Yeah.
I like that movie. Yeah.
See, this is all stuff I've thought about.
Tommy
Is like, do we make it dark? Do we make it funny? I don't want to go like teen comedy funny. Like, I want to keep it somewhat in reality. And it's hard to do that with the subject. You know what I mean? So maybe it's like not so funny. And it's a little darker, I think would be more interesting. But I haven't really developed it past that first.
So you did one comic book?
Yeah, and then I worked on so many films since then, and I've seen so many pitches and so many amazing stories that it kind of, just fell away. And, to bring it back would probably take teaming up with someone who does know how to write.
Yeah.
And then I could help visualize it.
You could help visualize it, and spearhead it.
Yeah.
When did you first start getting into art? Were you always drawing as a kid?
Yeah, I started when I was a kid, and I got kind of like a lucky streak. I won a bunch of contests that were like national contests and stuff when I was really little, and I think it kind of like boosted me.
So did you, from the get-go, already have a knack for it?
You're naturally good.
Faster than other kids?
Yeah, when I was a little kid, I drew a lot. Our family moved a lot, and I just was always at new schools, and I think, that kept me drawing a lot. And
were you self-taught?
Yeah, I mean, as a child, I started off and then I did take some classes here and there, just like, like a painting class in middle school or something like that, or like a sculpture class, but yeah, I didn't really learn. Yeah, actually, funny thing, comic books are such a huge part of film now. When I was a kid, comic books were just such a part of my daily life. You guys were probably like collecting the comic books and the cards and trading them with your friends.
I only got them.
And drawing.
You know what? They don't have this anymore. I only ever bought comic books at gas stations. Do you remember gas stations? Always. You guys don't remember that? Dude, what the fuck? Gas
Where's
stations?
this gas station?
Every gas station had comic books.
Back in the day. I think there was a time they had the little spinners where it was like they're like on each side.
And they would have the big ones like Iron Man, Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, and it would always be like old, like things that had been out for a while, but there was never a comic book store, at least I remember growing up around here.
I think that's why I wasn't like super into them.
You probably read them though, right? You were into reading them, or
I had a few. I think we got them from like Toys R Us or Media Play.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I was just really into drawing from the stuff I was looking at in the comics.
I read them, but I also tried to, because Jim Lee. He was like his style back in the day was like Jim Lee everything. The way his proportions were so exaggerated but cool.
Yeah.
And the women were hot as shit.
Yeah.
The dudes were just jacked.
Yeah.
Like the really hard dark lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
inking. Yeah.
Inking, yeah.
So yeah, I got huge into comics, which is funny because I ended up working on a lot of these movies that were based on these comics I loved as a kid.
Yeah.
And toy franchises like Ninja Turtles and stuff. I was obsessed with as a kid.
We'll get to that. That's going to be a big part of it because we all loved Turtles growing up.
Yeah. But yeah, that's where I started, back in the day with comic books. That's really what led. And then, eventually went to art school for painting and sculpting. And then at some point went back to grad school for 3D and digital painting.
Was there any games when you were little that struck you just artistically as the style that you feel like inspired you?
Oh, yeah. So Mortal Kombat was huge for me as a kid, and a lot of it had to do with just simply the character design, and they were kind of comic book-esque. But yeah, I loved that game. I used to save my quarters and go to the Pizza Hut and go play it and lose badly to like the older kids that would do the fatality on me. And,
and then everyone's like, oh, shit. Dude, the glory days of the arcade, I do kind of miss that. Where the arcade was the place people hung out. And there was like a social economy.
Smells like pizza.
There were the guys that were good.
Sweat.
And then you would watch the older kids throw down on Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat.
You come and put your token up.
Yeah, exactly. You put your place and cross your arms like, what's up? I challenge you. Yeah, I kind of miss that.
Chuck E. Cheese was the only place I could think of. Like Chuck E. Cheese or like Trafalgar.
Yeah,
where we live at least.
It was a good one. There's the mall. Just when the mall had a good arcade.
It's funny you say that though, because we just got one of those mini Super Nintendos, and it has all the Mortal Kombats on it.
Oh, nice.
And I was playing it, and my wife was like, I feel like we're like at like a Pizza Hut back in the day. I was like, right?
Yeah.
Because she remembers the noises.
Yeah.
Get over here.
Get over here. Finish him.
Superb.
Flawless victory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, and the Mortal Kombat, speaking of movies, the original Mortal Kombat movie is terrible. I watched it recently.
It's not that bad, though. But
it's a good terrible.
Yeah.
It aged like Army of Darkness to me. Like a good cheesy campy. That's funny.
True. It is super. Oh, that's true.
Dude, the fight
cheesy combat.
It's pretty cheesy.
I don't know how much. I don't remember how much you remember, but go and rewatch the fight between Johnny Cage and Scorpion.
I actually did.
Dude, it's so
Someone
bad.
just posted that
not
recently.
Good. Yeah, there's one point he does a double. He does a double front. Scorpion does like a double front flip. One way, all of a sudden he like lands facing the other way, like he came out of a backflip.
Yes.
And another scene, how did they think that was gonna match?
Yeah.
Or the editor?
They were in a hurry.
Yeah, it's right. It's not. But I remember back in the day though, like
I thought it was good as a kid,
knowing that 2 was actually bad, like really bad. But 1 was like, for a video game movie, like that was like one of the better ones in the day.
One of the better ones. And dude, that theme song. Mortal Kombat.
There's a movie that made that song popular, right?
Yeah,
like, that wasn't a thing before.
I don't remember it before the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, 6. I know I'm gonna be on your ass about the mic because it makes it so hard in post to fix if you're far away.
Yeah, Todd.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. Anyway, Mortal Kombat. Did you?
Well, that was like my original jam back as a kid.
What's interesting about art style is. You being an artist, that game used all digitized graphics. It wasn't sprite work. It was like images
people,
that they
right?
put together.
Pixelized.
It and a lot of photo reference and stuff too, which is funny how when you look back you can see how much they're implementing like actual photography and like film, like footage that they're compositing together to get that. But yeah, I was obsessed with that game and Donkey Kong, of course.
Donkey Kong Country?
Yes, both. Yeah, so Donkey Kong Country, and then through high school the big ones were like GoldenEye. Like that was the first first-person shooter game that really kind of took over. And that's the thing is, like, I sucked so bad at it that every time I played anyone, I always lost so quickly that my frustration kind of kept me from wanting to even get good at it. So
that's why I don't play first-person shooters now anymore. It's like you getting your butt kicked by a bunch of like 8-year-olds who are like cussing you out. Like, oh man, like it's so degrading after a while.
I have nothing to do but come home from school and fuck people up on Modern Warfare.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, you're good. I get it.
Screw you and your job, old man. You and your family. Fuck you. I fragged you, bitch. You're like, God, this hurts my heart. Like, I'm getting owned by this child.
Yeah. Just stop being so mean, please.
I just want to play.
Yeah, my kid now, who's 7, is obsessed with Fortnite.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, so we're actually putting a Fortnite room in our new house.
Oh, nice.
Where you can have double screen, so you can have one console hooked to each monitor.
Oh, cool. So you can like
Because you can't play
network or LAN,
two-player
yeah.
unless
Yeah.
you're logged into the same, what do you call it?
Server, I guess.
Well, there's 100 people that are fighting in one.
Game. You single
Yeah,
game, I guess.
like
Yeah.
a battle royale or whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah. So you can log into the same one and be in the same world, but it has to be on separate consoles. So.
Okay, so you
Yeah,
can
I
have
saw
two.
this idea is like you put two screens, one above the other, and just have a console and then two-player, and you can play at the same time.
Yeah.
That'd be way fun.
I'm gonna call it the Fortnite room.
The Fortnite
Yeah,
room.
he's
That
super
game
stoked.
is
Yeah,
That game
making
blew
money
up.
hand over
Yeah,
fist.
dude. Yeah,
Hand
like
over
freaking.
fist.
Have you heard of the guy like Ninja?
yeah.
He's
He's
like-
like the orange hair.
Yeah, or-
He's actually
he has
like on
crazy
the box
apparel.
for
Yeah,
like the toys.
he has like
and
he's like a
stuff.
sponsored Red Bull athlete. a fucking Red Bull athlete. He's like he makes like millions of dollars just from like streaming.
Yeah.
And, like that's not even like his brand deal.
Is
probably,
he? I don't know much
you
about that scene. Is he like?
He's
Is he competitively
huge.
the best? Like, does he win all the
No,
tournaments?
no, he's not even. I wouldn't say he's the best. He's just like
He's one of the
He's good, but
the
he's, like-
first to
Is
get
it
really big.
his
so people-
personality
he's a
that makes
streamer.
him-
Yeah, he's more of a personality.
Okay.
He's an e-gamer like streamer. you
So
know,
this
Twitch
is what
streamer.
I've noticed, and not to sidetrack, but like I'm teaching film design classes to these kids, and they're in their 20s, so like millennials, and a lot of them haven't seen some of these huge movies that should be on your
Like a
you know,
hallmark of kind of
like
yeah.
Aliens, James
It'd be
Cameron
like
Aliens,
your homework to
or like
understand the
Predator,
industry. Yeah,
and you're
Aliens.
going to try to design creatures, but you've never even seen these movies, and it's because they just play video games. That's like their
That's their thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's their childhood, if you want to, and then my kid is like, we've moved on now to just watching YouTube of other people playing video games. That's where we're at, and that's what he wants to
Dude,
do.
that's where my
He just wants to look at other people
Yeah.
play video games, but like only like 1 minute, 2 minute, shorts
changes.
of it. Yeah, and his brain is just so.
Dude, I think that's developed ADD. You
yeah,
gotta
and
be
what's
careful with that.
next?
I
you
have
know?
that actually. I feel like I have that. Just with,
Do
like,
you feel like you can't watch a movie without being on your phone at the same time and like looking at it?
Maybe I don't know.
Do you have that? I don't
No,
have that. No,
I
don't
like.
have it at
I'm
all.
super against that, but I notice like everybody else in the room, even while a movie is on, they're still on their phone.
If I like it, like if I'm casually watching something with my wife, I'm not really. Like she's
Yeah.
watching fucking Friends or again or something.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
I'll be on my phone.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
that's understandable.
Yeah, if I'm like into like
But you
watching
have
a
kids.
movie.
You have kids, and
Yeah.
when they like for my kid, when it's time to come off of a device, he's been on the iPad or the phone.
can
it's
be
like,
a meltdown.
It's like, what do? We put him in front of a movie because that's like a step down, which is
Oh,
still
yeah,
technically,
yeah.
because even that makes him bored now. You know,
That's
he
interesting.
feels
when
like
you
it's
say
boring.
about watching other kids game, my kids don't do that. But on top, more so than movies, whether it's like Disney's Frozen 2, who knows how much money they spent on making that
Yeah.
appealing to kids. They like watching kids play with toys on YouTube.
yeah.
Out of everything they can choose from. I'm like, you got Frozen, you got all these awesome movies, you got video games you can play, like, and they call it Redbox because the YouTube logo or whatever. I want to watch the Redbox, and they'll just pick like little kids playing with toys, and they'll just sit and watch.
When I was a kid and we told each other mama jokes, one of mine was, "Your family's so poor. For Christmas, your mom got you a video of other kids playing with toys,"
And now it's
which
true.
is now like a really good present.
You know what's funny though? Like I just had a thought. I bag on that too. Like all these people watching, like other gamers play video games and stuff. I mean, I get the appeal, and I still kind of make fun of it sometimes, or like little kids watching
yeah.
other kids play games. But then there's me watching other like filmmakers play with gear and toys that I can't afford
Yeah.
anyway. Or
That's true.
like I'll totally watch
It's
it.
like if that's what you do and you're good at it, and watching other people do it, that's kind
I
of
can see that.
like
I'll
a
watch
learning
drummers.
experience.
I'll watch drummers
Yeah.
play drums online all the time. Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know if it falls in the same vein, but like
It's probably kind of similar.
You know.
I
Yeah.
just think that my kids, like, they would rather watch kids play with toys than play with actual
yeah,
toys.
and that's the problem with
weird.
like a lot of things. Like
Kinda freaks me out a little
Yeah,
bit.
because then you run into problems like that with like people maybe like me or us. Like
Yeah.
you spend more time watching people making films than actually making them.
Yeah.
Or watching people
Yeah,
drawing
that's true.
instead
Yeah.
of drawing. Like
It can
you
get-
fall
it
in
can
that
get-
loop.
it can get
And
out of
that's-
balance.
Yeah, like you find more time. Like feel like you end up spending more time in the process of like ingesting.
This
stuff instead of like actually
you're hitting
creating
like a
stuff.
nail on the head with what my kid's going through a little bit. Is that he's mentioned this and I've read about it. Is that you pick something, any sport or specialty or anything that takes talent, and you can get on YouTube and see like an 8-year-old that's like amazing,
world class. Yeah,
and then you never want to
Do
try.
they turn them off?
Yeah,
it's like,
so
oh,
little
screw it.
kids see that, and then they just don't even want to try. Whereas like we were kids.
what's the point? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if like you were the young version of you, the little version of you, seeing like the older version of Todd out there doing like parkour, you would probably not want to try,
Yeah.
because they're so good. And then, or like if you saw little kids doing stuff.
because it makes you
That's
feel
true,
like I
yeah.
can never catch up.
Yeah.
I'll never catch
Yeah.
up.
That's
Yeah.
actually exactly why I quit. all these dumb little
Yeah.
10-year-olds, not
Yeah.
dumb, but dumb in a strangely jealous way. But like you have like these like little 10-year-olds hucking like
Yeah.
triple fulls,
Yeah.
off of like a 10-foot drop to concrete, and like it's like that's what I have to do
It's
now to
happening
keep up.
across the board too.
So,
It's like
my God,
music.
Yeah, everything
And
across the board,
artists,
yeah.
there's little kids that they're teenagers that have just learned everything online, and they're like doing things with these programs that these veteran artists like barely can do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
So I
So they're
think
all like
we're-
self-taught,
We're
watching tutorials online.
we're about to face like a future of like I don't really know, what it's going to be, but like kids are going to just keep excelling.
That's
You know?
happening. I mean, in sports too. Like I was listening to an MMA podcast. The same thing. Like Wave One, when it was first UFC was first coming out, it was just like you had all these different schools of thought when fighting, but no one had really tested it.
Yeah.
So they come together. Then you have Wave Two, which is basically like guys who are tough, kids who grew up wrestling, and it's just those guys are the best. Now we're in Wave 3 and 4, where it's kids who have been doing all the different training, ground, stand up, all from day
They're
one
all
as a
pretty
little kid.
well-rounded.
And they can do like there's just no way.
And they probably played video games.
And they did.
Which-
Dude, speaking
Both
of
of them are
video
into it,
games,
yeah.
this might it could be good for choreography for fights. Max Holloway, who just lost the belt, but he was the 145-pound champ for like a while. He's considered one of the best in the weight class. His first 7 fights in the UFC, which is a lot of fights, even to get to the UFC in the first place. Up to that point, he never had a striking coach. He played the UFC video game
Really?
and learned combos from the video game.
Oh.
And it's not until he lost to Conor McGregor, after that he hired a striking coach. But that's how far he got. Just from playing a video game.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, where like the
That's
kids
so-
see the stuff and they're scared of it. They don't want to try because
Yeah.
they're too good, or they
do the
embrace it.
opposite,
They
yes.
embrace it, and they get
Become
way
freaks.
better. Yeah,
Yeah.
So the future is really going to be like, who's the best at driving this robot, this drone, or this gun? Because kids that played shooter games, for example,
Yeah.
like I've heard stories of paintball tournaments where it's like a team of Tom Clancy players versus like Navy, and they win.
The Tom Clancy players fuck him
Yes,
up.
they
Yeah.
win because they are so good at their
badass.
game.
Yeah.
And the same with the pilots. The kids
It's
that are like
interesting.
18 that fly the drones can outfly any pilot just by, sitting there. And
So
so
some
that's
of
the
those
future.
drone pilot
Yeah.
kids are nuts.
Nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I had an airline pilot on, Mike Rushforth, shout out to him, like episode 12 or 13, and he was saying the flight simulators, like the nerds that get into flight simulators, they're ready to fly.
Yeah.
For the most part. He's working on a like a business idea, basically like go through his like unofficial program where they like walk you through flight simulator,
Yeah.
actual pilots. Then when you get to flight school, you're basically already ready.
Yeah.
And you can just take an advanced.
Yeah.
They offer advanced flight school options.
It's crazy.
And it's all from Flight Simulator, and they have like actual nerds that will pretend to be actual nerds. I'm sorry. They just have dudes who are so he's balls deep into flight sim. He plays those military like Arma 3,
Yeah.
Escape from Tarkov. He plays with like real Navy SEALs. They'll play these like simulation games. But they also have people who will simulate aircraft towers for you as well. And it's all community based. So you can link your Microsoft Flight Simulator game to like someone who's pretending and acting like an actual real
Wow.
aircraft tower, and you'll learn all the commands and how to communicate back and forth. And that's like what he's saying is like, dude, kids now are coming into flight school and they're ready to fly. They just have to go through the motion.
Have you seen Ender's Game or read it?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah, I love that.
It's
yeah.
kind of like it was written way before its time, where this kid's so good at that game, but he's the only one that can save humankind
Save the
by,
human planet. And
by being
he
a
thinks
video
he's
game
playing
player.
the game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
but
is
it's
the reveal.
crazy.
Yeah.
And one thing too, I wanted to mention when we were talking about this with the whole drone versus pilot thing. So once in a while, the military, the weapons department will hire Hollywood artists to design things. simply so they can get
just to get ideas,
the budget, because it's just like any business. There's a competition between the different weapon companies, and they're all pitching to the government, and whichever one gets the contract. So they're doing the same thing. They're showing like pitch illustration works to try to like get them excited and give them the money. So there was a time when the last manned aircraft that's still being produced is the F-18. I believe. I could be off. It might be the F-19. I don't even know if that's a real one, but F-18.
I don't know enough about planes.
So it's the best manned aircraft that the military has, but they want to stop making them and just spend all their money making drones. And a big part of that is because to house a human inside an aircraft makes it like 20 times as expensive as just having something that flies and drops. And everything.
Everything that
goes around keeping this person alive. So they're trying to pitch, let's just make all drones. And then, of course, the backlash on that is that like we can't put all the power of the Army into something that is
unmanned,
so vulnerable to be hacked, and then they have control of everything. So we have to make a certain amount of manned ships too. And I mean, I know that comes from like a sci-fi movie, like this whole just in case, but really that's why. And so they came to us and they're like, we need you guys to design some cool skins that they put on the jets. Like just basically graphics, wraps that they would put on these jets that already exist. They want to pitch that to the defense company and say, we want the money for this to keep making as many manned aircraft as possible. And so they're not just drones. And of course, it's not really going to matter how you paint them and what you put on them as a skin. It's still the same jet.
It's still the same technology, still the same performance.
And they haven't really spent more on making better technology for manned aircraft. They're only increasing the technology for drones. And so this is already starting. And this was 10 years ago. And so I was thinking at the time, like, wow, this is... And then there's another project, and I'll just jump on this real quick since I'm on this. The Obama announced one time that he wanted to make a real Iron Man suit. And I don't know if anyone remembers that.
I do vaguely remember.
People thought he might be kidding. So they're using this defense company to build an actual suit. And of course, what it is, it's got to be an armored suit that has a built-in exoskeleton that can give you, extra strength and endurance and stuff, but also be nimble enough to go into like urban areas and roll if you have to, or squeeze through doors. So they can't fit this exoskeleton through a door. It looks retarded. The battery is so big to power it that it just becomes like a giant backpack. And so they're just like, let's go to Hollywood and hire the company that designed Iron Man to work with the engineers to design something that could do all these things. Yeah. So we're facing problems like, when you lift the arm up, you're exposing the
power. How do you power
the armpit?
Yeah.
So that they're trying to figure out ways to put more than one, multiple batteries in different areas of the suit to reduce size. Plates that slide for one, the armpit is the most vulnerable spot. So when you lift to shoot the gun, how are we going to bulletproof? So we have to come up with all these problems and solve them. And we actually designed this thing. And I don't know what ever happened to it because I'm not allowed to know.
That's just interesting. It's just interesting that that's even going on in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah, but at least it was telling me Obama wasn't kidding. Like they really did have a huge amount of money.
They put some money towards that.
Yeah.
Have you seen the guy that's made the actual Iron Man
jet suit?
The jet suit.
Yeah, cool. I want to try that so
crazy.
bad. That looks so fun.
Some crazy asshole's like, I'm going to do
I'm gonna be fucking
he's
Iron
the real Stark. That's the real Stark.
The dude from...
Should lock him in a cave and see what
The dude from Mythbusters made a video on YouTube, and he got a guy basically, or maybe he made it himself, and put it on the guy who invented the jet suit, but he made an actual Iron Man, like working Iron Man,
like armor
for him to wear. So he
So it looks like Iron Man.
So it looks like Iron Man while he's doing it.
That's pretty
awesome.
badass.
Well, I saw a leaked photo, but who knows, where it's like Chinese soldiers that they're already putting the jetpacks on. So they're like flying through the air with crazy. Machine guns and jetpacks.
What?
Yeah. Well, they have a
real life Mandalorian stuff now.
Well, a jetpack sounds feasible. I mean, there's a guy on YouTube that made his own jetpack. So, of course, that sounds totally feasible.
Of course, China's like, we need all of them.
We'll take 1 billion, please. You need money? We got lots of that too.
We'll make them here too.
And we'll make and we'll steal the technology and then we'll make it ourselves.
Some 10-year-old's going to make it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, China kind of scares me. And all the stories you told me haven't helped at all.
Yeah. Well, living there is definitely an eye opener because I feel like everything that everyone tells me all the time about China is like the opposite of the truth because they just read it somewhere and I'm like, actually.
Yeah, I went there. Yeah. I mean, you guys both been there. Maybe
Yeah.
But just what I found is anecdotally, not online, but just in people that I trust, that I talk to, that are involved in some industries, right? You're involved in the film concept industry, friends that are involved in real estate, friends that are involved in marketing, all these different ways, and there's a similar theme. We're being infiltrated by Chinese money.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm like, all these different people I know in completely separate industries are all telling me stories about how Chinese money is coming in and making moves.
Yeah,
so what the hell?
I wanted to be a translator for a little while and actually stop doing art to focus solely on that, and then got burnt out on it and had relative success and loved it and enjoyed it, but then I kind of went out of that. But now in film, suddenly there's all this opportunity for speaking Chinese.
You wanted to be like a liaison between...
between China
but
and
then you said they don't want efficient communication.
They want to spread it out.
Because they want that Chinese money, baby.
Yeah. He knows everything. Yeah, so that's...
I'm just remembering.
No, so now that... I don't know if it's still 80%, but like a year or two ago, it was 80% of all the money being invested into Hollywood was coming from China. And so what that gives them is... the authority to pull certain strings, like if they want to change an aspect of the script to be more or less
Chinese
favorable to Chinese.
Any political stance.
Yeah, they try to censor as much as they
So now they're starting to have control over things that they didn't used to have control over, and you'd be surprised like how much influence these movies have on
culture.
Generations, right? And so they're now sort of pulling strings they never were before, and it was like one of the strongholds I would say that like the West or America had was Hollywood, and now that's kind of been taken.
They're going to own Hollywood in the next 10
and then they're
years.
also building their own Hollywood, and
they're coming in learning everything to take it back, and then at some point just phase us out.
Yeah, and they don't really need our demographic if they make a movie. Like, it does amazing over here. Still
we
not
need
going to
that.
dent
Everyone
the
wants
surface,
their demographic. Like, every Hollywood movie's shooting to get their stuff put in. Everyone wants that $1 billion, Like,
would you buy into a level of so all Chinese money, from what I understand, is somehow loosely connected to the government.
Yeah, totally. Right? So they decide the contracts of what movies they're going to allow to be shown in China.
And do you think the government is consciously... Do you think the Chinese government is consciously like, okay, we want to undermine American culture, these are the things we want to slip into media, or is that taking it too far? And they're just like, we just want to take over.
Maybe it's not so dubious, and it's just about money, really.
That's what I'm saying.
You just want to hold the market.
It's just money. It's just money, power, and control.
That's it. Yep. And so, but on the bright side of that, and this is what I've always thought, is that like for a Westerner American here to get a bunch of investors or philanthropists or studios to back their idea is like really a long shot. But just like we've been talking about streaming funding and everything, well, China is similar to that. They have a huge amount of upper middle class now, or even upper class, that has all this money suddenly that they want to invest in the art and they want to do philanthropy, and then maybe they don't just want to make Chinese movies and they want to make something for an American demographic.
Or they want to own a bunch of American property on the coast.
Well, you could technically go over there and get something greenlit.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't be able to over here, which is it's very exciting to me, because like some of the ideas I have, I think it'd be a lot easier to pitch them and get Chinese money.
You might get the money, the funding. Yeah. They got so much of it. They're just laying it around.
Gay won't need a chin.
I worked on this like independent film, and that's where they got their money, was like some like pastor in like China who wanted to be a filmmaker. So like the way they do it is just like by investing into like these indies or lower budget or maybe big budget stuff. All sorts of stuff.
Because at the end of the day, I think people with money get to a point where like they want to do something with it. And,
what's $1 million?
Something like philanthropy, like
for something small.
Yeah, they're influencing culture. That's like a power move in it, and they feel really good about it. And like it's not just about making money, or it's not supposed to be.
Yeah, they just want to do something.
Yeah, artistic.
Yeah, I would be the same way. Like if I can imagine myself oh, I just got gifted $200 billion, right? Endless money. I could never spend it. I would definitely like try to make a video game or something. Like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
what am I going to do? Sit around
why-
and jack off?
yeah, like, why not?
I got to do something. Like, I got to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You feel obligated almost, I would say.
Yeah, I'd be bored.
You
And
know?
then, yeah, I would definitely feel, I think, eventually a pull to, well, not only do I need to do something, but I need to do something good for the
Yeah.
world. Because otherwise, like,
Leave your mark,
Yeah.
make an impression.
That's why, like, what's his face? Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah.
He's always spends all his time and money on child trafficking,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
saving girls
Yeah.
from sex
Yeah.
trafficking. I'm like, what better thing could you
something.
ask
Yeah.
for a celebrity to
Yeah.
spend their time on?
Yeah.
Or even Kim Kardashian is like spending all this time getting people out of jail who have been wrongly convicted, and she'll take on
Oh, no way.
cases
Really?
and pay for the lawyers to investigate and show with new DNA he actually didn't rape this girl, he actually didn't kill this person, and she's gotten like 30 people, something like 30 people released
Dude,
from
that's
prison.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. After I heard that, I'm like, yeah, I still make fun of the Kardashians, but
I don't want to get into the incarceration problem, but that's definitely like some
An
yeah,
issue?
We could have a whole podcast about it. But I was
Yeah.
gonna say, as far as having an obligation to do something, if you're that wealthy or a celebrity, you know who I keep hearing more and more about is Keanu Reeves. You guys know all
Yeah.
how he just goes around like feeding homeless people.
He's like the
and-
nicest dude in the world.
Walking
so
apparently.
glad.
dogs and,
For a
like-
second, because I love Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say something like evil, like he's
No,
actually
no,
a
no.
pedophile
He's
or
like, he's
something.
like
I'm
the internet
no, not my
sweetheart
hero.
right
He's
now,
like
dude.
the
Everyone
closest
loves
thing to
him.
Jesus, basically. Like,
Yeah,
everyone
that's
thinks
the
that
meme
he's,
online.
Yeah.
People are like, he's basically Jesus.
He's
Yeah.
a vampire.
In
Is
real
another
life.
one. Like
Yeah.
he's like
He doesn't
hasn't
age.
aged.
He just is like nice to everybody. He wants to take the bus and like fly.
And we'll get back to video
Genuinely
games.
down to
Here,
earth.
I can connect this to video games. He's going to be in the new Cyberpunk video game.
He is, yeah.
And I heard
he came out, dude. He was like all about it.
Speaking
dude.
about that, being like Jesus, he approached them. I think that's what he said. He's
no
like,
way.
dude, I think this stuff is dope. Can I be in Cyberpunk? And they were like, yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, also in Fortnite, you know how they have characters that are from outside franchises.
Yeah, they have like
Hopper.
stuff with like Marvel. I know
you
they
can
had
be
like.
John Wick, who is he can't die.
Fortnite?
He's like immortal.
You can be John Wick.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
shit,
all the
that's
little
so cool.
kids think John Wick is like the shit. And my
That's
kid,
genius.
That's
my
the
kid-
smartest like PR like marketing.
He's genius. He's also releasing Matrix and John Wick 4 on the same day.
Yeah, I heard
which I
about
think is
that.
genius too.
Oh.
He's kind of like The Rock. He's like, fuck you, system.
Yeah.
He's had-
I'm-
Yeah.
I do what I want. I'm Keanu
He's also
Reeves.
had a
He's amazing.
renaissance though, like because like before a while there, he's like pretty like after the Matrix.
He was
you know,
kind of
he
like
kind
a
of laid low a
cheesy-
little
Yeah.
bit. Like,
Yeah.
but only like I say in the last like 5 years since John Wick came back up, I think he's kind of like
It's helped.
he's like
John
he's like
Wick,
brought
yeah.
his career back up to like he's more in the limelight again and
Yeah, he's not the best at like emoting certain types. He's very like monotone.
yeah.
That's because he's zenned out. He's
Yeah,
Jesus.
so people would almost make fun of that, and now it's
Yeah.
like become full circle, and that's like he's.
But he's just such a nice dude.
Yeah.
Like you want to just like support anything he does.
Yeah.
You know, just
He's
because
a
he
nice
seems like
guy.
I don't know, maybe he's a fucking asshole,
No,
but he
he's not.
seems
He's,
like,
like,
he
amazing.
seems like a genuinely good
no,
dude.
he really. So the rumor is, or that I've had friends who actually did work on the Matrix, and you hear about how all the money that he earned, he gave it to the artists.
Was that
from the
legit?
show. Yeah,
I snoped
He
that.
really did, yeah.
He said that technically
he bought him cars and stuff. like-
it was like under the books, and he took a pay cut to give more budget to the special effects. Because
Yeah.
someone asked him like, "Did you give all your money to the special effects team?" I think he's like, "Not technically, no."
Yeah, and he's not doing it because he wants any recognition.
Yeah.
He's almost trying to keep it out of the
Yeah, his
limelight.
response was like, "Well,
he gets really
technically
embarrassed
no.
about
I
it.
just I agreed to do the movie for less money so they could allocate more money."
He
to the-
probably like had to say that or something.
Yeah,
No, he
yeah,
really
he-
did.
He
This
didn't
one-
want to talk
yeah.
about it.
This one
Yeah.
artist that I know, he was like, yeah, he like gave us money, he'd like buy us stuff, for the whole department. But so my kid's obsessed with John Wick, and that's why my hair's long right now. Because
I
he
didn't
says
know
it
he
looks
was-
like John Wick, and he thinks it's awesome.
That's
That's where it all started.
That's where it all
Yeah,
started.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's
Yeah,
awesome,
John
yeah.
Wick came.
Because how many kids are gonna know John Wick? Like, unless they did that,
Yeah.
like that's genius.
Yeah.
Like,
Anything
put it
you
into
in
like
Fortnite.
a yeah.
Yeah.
Because like most people who know John Wick are gonna be like probably at least 16,
Did
17.
you watch number 3 yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
They've all been entertaining.
I
They've all
like
been
number
good.
3. I think number 1 overall is still the best because it came out of nowhere.
It's the
Yeah.
best story.
Yeah, but I did think that the hallway scene with the knives
That one.
in number 3. Do you remember that? They're like throwing knives, but they're like bouncing on.
That was
All
not
of
all
them are
sticking,
sticking.
yeah.
It was
It was
awesome.
pretty- yeah, it was well
So
done.
I get a little bit exhausted by overaction. Like, if it's done...
So you were tired by the end of 3?
Yeah, because my
Yeah, that was
brain
straight
is
action.
having to process
Yeah.
like faster when it's action. And that movie is just like nonstop, one shot of action for
Yeah.
like 3 hours. And I basically like it puts me to sleep almost. Like I need like a break for a second, like with some dialogue.
So, yeah, John Wick 1 had a better balance.
Yeah.
It makes
Exactly.
each action scene more memorable
Yeah.
or more
It's-
impactful. If-
yes.
You know, because
Yes.
like you set it up, you get a break, you give the audience time to breathe a little bit, and all of a sudden it comes back like, okay, you're like you said, you're
Look,
you're kinda
take me to
refreshed,
dinner
you're-
first at
Yeah,
least.
yeah,
you know? And then you
exactly.
Take me. That's how I feel about.
Hardcore Henry
I
is
say
the
this
same way.
about hardcore music.
yeah.
It's like if it's screaming the whole time, it has no. You just get numb.
Yeah.
But if there's one spot where it hits,
Yeah.
and it's like then you're like,
I-
oh yes.
Okay, so I have some good friends that do music and art, and it's across the board with either food or clothing or armor design or music is you need broad strokes or areas of rest.
Yes.
So when you look at
Space.
something and it's super technical and your eyes are like every aspect of this character is super detailed, it's actually not a good
Overwhelming,
design. Yeah,
yeah.
you need areas of rest where your eye can stop for a second and then move to the next shot of detail. And same with music, when there's
Yeah.
a breakdown or a build up or like when the verse can calm down and then get crazy in the chorus.
yeah.
It's like you need those to, and same with food and same with anything. And then John Wick 3 was kind of just like,
Just too much action.
just eat it, just take it. You know?
Yeah,
But,
just
like,
bend over.
Yeah.
We're giving it to you.
you're going to watch it and you're going to like it.
I wasn't a huge fan of the section with the girl,
Halle Berry.
Halle
Yeah.
Berry. She didn't. I mean, whatever. She's hot. She's cool.
That was an area of rest, in the script where you could kind of like breathe
Slow
for a
down a
second,
For a
bit.
second,
and have
then
some
they get in
talking.
this
Yeah.
giant firefight. I did like how she used her dogs.
That was
as part
cool.
of
That
it.
was
That was
cool.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty dope.
I feel kind of I don't know how much I can say, but I have some friends who've worked on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Oh, nice.
and they're rehearsing the.
Don't worry, no one listens to this podcast,
Okay.
so
I won't say any names because I don't
Yeah.
know if they had NDAs or whatnot.
Yeah.
The movie's out now, so like they told us after the movie, so hopefully it's safe. But they're working on that same
The dog
same
part?
gag. Like
Oh.
one of the dudes gets bit in the junk
Yeah, yeah.
on John Wick 3, and before John Wick 3 came out, he told me, that they were doing this, like, potentially working on this like really gnarly, like scary dog bite to,
Yeah.
Scene, yeah.
to the groin. I'm like, oh, that sounds so scary, and like he's been working with these dogs for months to get it done.
Yeah.
And then John Wick 3 comes out and has like the same gag. I'm like, oh man. I mean, luckily they kept.
It's odd how often
I
that
didn't even
happens.
put that together.
really
They both
close.
have a dog bite in the nut scene.
Yeah. So did you think?
Dog bite in the
Dude,
nuts.
you could never have too many dog to nut scenes.
Right.
Like, we can use more.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's all good. That's probably why they still kept it there.
Yeah.
But originally it's going to be in the arm,
D to N.
and they're training,
DT,
and they're
yeah.
training it on the arm, and then Tarantino's like, you know what? Want to
Bite his balls.
Yeah, basically he's like, we've been training for months to the arm, dude. Like,
He's like, no,
to
no,
just
no, no.
like just to switch that, like that's
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
scary. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
big deal to switch
That's a
something on the
risk.
fly like that.
That is.
Did you guys like
The
Once Upon a
Tarantino
Time?
I
one-
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a slow burn, but I enjoyed it.
Okay, so I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched like the first hour and a half. I think it was on an airplane, and then I was like, yeah, it's just a slow Tarantino, long dialogue. That's cool, whatever. I didn't finish it.
Yeah,
and then
you missed
I went
the
around.
craziest part.
Yeah, I went around with the impression that, and then my cousin's like, "What about the blowtorch scene?" And I was like, "Huh?" He's like, "You should probably watch the whole thing."
That's my friend.
So with the blowtorch?
Yeah,
No
she's
way.
the one getting blasted
Oh,
in the pool.
That made
Yeah.
me laugh so hard, and I was watching it by myself, and I was laughing so hard I felt like bad after.
I was laughing. I'm like, why don't you go underwater? You're in a pool.
Did I remember her telling me about prepping
why
for that.
would you shoot your gun into the air? She was a little out of it, I think.
That's
Yeah,
true.
They're husband and wife. That's the funny thing. Her husband's the dude who got bit in the nuts. She's the one who got torched in the
Oh, dude.
in the
That's
swimming
scary.
pool.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
We're gonna shoot you with a flamethrower, okay?
And
Okay.
and do what's funny? Her eyes got like her corneas got burnt.
Oh no.
But the funny thing is, like, it was from the makeup, not the actual fire. The blood and the makeup mixed. Not even from that, just like
the heat of it.
Not even from the heat. Like, the fire had nothing to do with it. It's just like something that she had on her face.
Like chemical.
The chemicals like end up like being bad or mixing bad, and they didn't know that, and it ended up like burning her corneas. Luckily,
is she okay?
She's fine. Yeah, luckily, but there's a scare for a minute. Like, it could have like permanently damaged her eyesight. But he's like, after all that, you know, it's like makeup that screws it up.
I don't know how much you can say.
I know, that's why I'm like kind of nervous. Like, I'm breaking trust here.
How much do you get paid to get lit on fire?
Not enough.
Not enough. That's what I figured.
Not enough, but enough.
How much money would they have to offer you to get lit on fire? And you do stunts. If they came to you and said, "Okay, you're on this Tarantino movie. You're gonna, for this one day of work, whatever, this one stunt, it's 10 G's. Are you gonna get lit on fire?"
Oh, dude, I would do it for $1,000. That's the union. That's the union rate. Is like almost it's like 9.
Yeah.
I would not set myself on fire for $1,000.
Cade's like looking for matches right now.
Think about this. Okay, so for me, who's still trying to like, I'm no one really. I'm still trying to break into the industry. Like, really, like, you know.
Yeah.
Really trying to get on bigger stuff. I've done like smaller commercial, like bigger commercial stuff, smaller features. You know, I haven't worked on like any like big Hollywood, like big budget movies. Yeah. But anyway, so the union rate for SAG or any actor, you know, is like around $9.50 ish. It might go up or be a little lower. I don't remember exactly, but you know, to have the opportunity to be in a Tarantino movie, you know, like,
oh, you do it for free.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I'd do that for like base rate. For sure. Even if I knew there's no adjustments coming, like, I get to be in Tarantino. It's probably looks great for your reel.
Yeah, that's true. The opportunity would over.
From then on, you're just the guy that gets burnt.
If I had done 1,000 fire burns and I was well seasoned, then I'd be like, I've done. You know, like at a certain point, it might not be worth the risk. But for someone in my current position, I would probably do it for free, to be honest.
I'm always going to think stunts should get more, to be honest. Like,
but like your base rate is usually, like there's a chance, depending on how production set things up, that you don't get more than the 900. Or
do you remember?
But usually you get good adjustments,
Yeah.
I think the overall rate, it seems like the overall rate of stuntmen, like, you guys are pretty successful. Like, most of the time you don't get hurt. But every once in a while, like, I was reading about that girl who was in Resident Evil.
Got clipped by that camera car, Got
hit by that crane or something while she was jumping a bike.
Degloved her. Her whole face. Amputated her left arm. No, she's alive, but they had to amputate her arm. She's like, her spine is now curved. Like, completely messed up. She's lucky she's not paralyzed. But yeah, that was a big thing in the stunt community.
It can happen.
Yeah, and the worst part was, I think she's trying to sue now because for some reason, and I don't know how they got away with this, there was no insurance, so she's left with the bill. There was no production insurance on that.
That's like part of the process when they're doing movies. They have to, like, if you're a SAG.
That's why I'm saying, like, I don't know how they got away with that, because I've been on low budget stuff with insurance. YouTube stuff.
Something is fishy about that.
So there's like, it made a big deal because, like, she had this life altering, she can't work, and they're not covering any of it. Permanently jacked up, lost an arm, almost lost her face.
That's sad, man.
And it's a Resident Evil movie. It's like the 5th one. But it wasn't filmed in the States. Like, they went out of the country, so I think they might, like, I know a lot of productions a lot of times will go, out of the States to film, even for budgets and everything, but sometimes also just to get away from, like, SAG, to make sure they don't, they can...
Or tax write-offs.
Usually for tax write-offs, but sometimes maybe for reasons like that, it's a little more dodgy and they didn't want to do the insurance. I don't know. Anyway, like, too much of a tangent, but sorry.
I wanted to ask you, what do you think, what video game has the best art design? Just visually, style, that you've seen?
Like the in-game graphics?
Just overall style. Like this, like, I'm trying to think of a difference. So, like, it could be like an old school pixel game, but you love the style or it doesn't have to be best graphics necessarily.
Oh, just literally the style and
like artistic design, aesthetic.
Oh man,
maybe we could do best graphics.
That's a difficult question, and a lot of it too is because, like, concept design is what it looks like before they make it, and sometimes that's really beautiful, and then maybe in the game it doesn't look as
good.
And I'm not playing that many current games, but, like, from what I've seen, like, I feel like all the video games are just looking more and more beautiful, and, like, as far as, like, style, like, they're all kind of, like, just developing, like, their own unique. What's the new one where you have the baby?
Death Stranding.
Yeah, like Death Stranding, like that. The ideas in that are like brilliant, and it looks beautiful. Or
the concepts and the arts are
What's
amazing.
the one, the cowboy one? That's
Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, again, beautiful. It looks amazing. You know,
Yeah.
and it's just different. It's just a different story and different content. And then of course after playing VR, it's like. Just takes you to that whole next level. As far as like nostalgic though, I was always really into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater just because, and not just so much of how it looked, but I did skateboard, and so kind of like being able to have a character do the tricks that you can do in that game. I just loved it.
Yeah.
You know? As far as like the cities, you know, the courses that they would set up that you could skate, I was really into that.
Yeah, that's something that I think Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. What people don't get enough credit is whoever worked on the level designs.
Yeah.
That built these like playgrounds, and you could always find these like, oh, I can jump this alleyway here. There's a secret there. I can connect this to that, and you could just play these same playgrounds over and over again, and still find new ways. Yeah. New ways to do tricks. It was an addictive game.
Yeah, and I think to answer the question fully with style is that like since I'm in costume and I'm kind of like overly scrutinizing everything that people are wearing. Some of these games that are sort of like Fortnite or Anthem or Overwatch, they all kind of have a mix of all these different genres and like sci-fi armor mixed with like they have cowboy stuff, and then they have, you know, post-apocalyptic people that have like found objects or samurais all mixed together. Or like a monkey that's in, you know, armor, sci-fi armor, or like some girl driving a mech. The artwork for all those games, as far as like the design of the costume, I love that stuff.
I thought Anthem had. I still to this day think Anthem's visuals
beautiful
in style. I just heard so many bad things about the game. I never tried it.
Yeah.
But when it first got announced and I saw the trailers, I'm like, this is Iron Man, the team shooter, like awesome sci-fi, like it's everything I wanted. It's a beautiful looking game.
Yeah, I was really excited for it. It looked like the potential looked like amazing.
When my kid plays Fortnite, and I hate to say this because it's probably just an arrogant statement or ignorant statement of like first-person shooter games are very similar with the view of the camera, the point of view of the camera, and sort of just moving around in this world. You don't necessarily even see the character. You can see the other characters running by sometimes, but what I always want to do is have him go into where you are selecting the character and the different types of armor, and just
you can see the.
And I just love looking at that stuff. Like to me, I'm just like yes. And then once we're in game and we're playing, you kind of
bored. I don't. Yeah. I'll play first person games like Cyberpunk's coming out. That's going to be first person. They'll probably be, but I prefer third person for.
I was more excited when I thought it was third person.
Yeah, I was bummed when I found out.
Yeah, me
but
too.
Like speaking of. The God of War on PS4, I spent a lot of time, like, you get a new armor set, I'd put it on, I would just, like, rotate the camera. And I would just sit and be like, God damn, it's so cool.
Yeah, and then, you know, going off of that note, so I never really put that much time into video games because I felt like it was something that I would have to really work hard at to get good at and then beat it, and then it's over. And then the next game comes and it's just like a new language every time. And so I always just kind of put my time into like the programs I use at work are sometimes as exciting as playing a video game for me. If like a new version of ZBrush comes out, for example, and they have new brushes that you can sculpt in, that's like exciting and I want to learn it and put my time into there. And that somehow keeps me from playing games and kind of has like justified why I don't. And I just have never gotten really that great at them. I like to play them and, you know, I love working on them and I like how much people like playing them. You know,
there's probably people listening and here that like they would kill to work on a video game. They love playing. They're like, this asshole doesn't even like playing video games, and he gets to work on them.
No, that's the funny thing is like some of these companies don't want to hire you if you're not actually a gamer, or you're not as involved in the final product. You know, and a lot of the concept guys or designers don't actually play the games, and so they would rather hire somebody that is a gamer because they're more involved in basically the way it looks in the gameplay.
They can get more emotionally invested.
Yeah, and more emotionally invested, and so. But whenever they outsource, they always kind of just hire the same whoever's got the best work, and so. But I've gotten a lot of crap for that, definitely, and especially from my students. You don't even, and I'm like, well, why are you at film school if you've never even seen Aliens? You know?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
What is your favorite game you've actually played? Has there been a game that you've really like sucked you in and you got really involved with? I know you said Tony Hawk.
Yeah,
but...
probably Tony Hawk, and the reason for that was just like the time in my life. I'm in high school, and that was like the thing that we did, and we just all play.
Yeah.
You know, and I also didn't like that you're with a group of people and only one or two people can play, and then you're sitting there watching other people play games.
Yeah.
And I never liked doing that. But when it was just a few of us, you know, I loved playing it, and that's really where I played a tiny bit of Halo.
I was going to ask.
Yeah,
That could be. I
it was
figured.
kind of like for everybody. You went like GoldenEye into Halo, and
GoldenEye and Halo.
Within like if you're our age.
Mario, GoldenEye, and Halo are
kinda-
the most common three.
Mario
that come
Kart.
Up. Yeah.
Like
Just any Mario game in general, Halo, GoldenEye.
We
always
have a
come up.
Wii at my house. My kids play, and like Mario Kart's fun. We play that a lot. Yeah, I've been playing Fortnite with my kid a little bit. My brother plays Madden all day. So,
I know kids that those sports games to get into them.
Yeah.
They,
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you what about movies? Growing up, was there any like? What I'm trying to get at is like, what art that you consume inspires you to make art? Like, what gets you riled up? Like, I fucking love making art because I see this person's art, or I see the design here, and that makes me inspired to like make something cool as well.
So there's different times in my life. There was certain artists that I admired and was highly influenced by, and wanted to, you know, mimic their styles or come up with, you know, something similar. And so, like, as a kid, it was always comic books and comic book artists. And, you know, there's particular ones that I was really fond of or whatnot. And then, of course, films that were, you know, big to me were kind of big to everybody. A lot of these, you know, big creature films, like I had mentioned, Aliens or Predator, stuff like that, Predator. That came out in the 80s. And then sci-fi films. And then after working in this industry, and you know, the longer I've done it, there is definitely styles of certain artists that I love and I look to. And then of course I've seen so much content that sometimes it can become redundant, you know. And like so,
you've been eating so much good food for so long, it's just become normal food.
Yeah. Like I've seen so much cool art, and I've seen so much art that no one else will ever see because it's for pitches that were scrapped or characters that were never approved. And I've seen so much beautiful, amazing artwork and stuff, and I do all the time, and I'm always excited by it, and still super excited about films. I've become a lot more of a scrutinizer when I watch films. Like I'm really digesting like every little tiny aspect, and sometimes we'll pause it and, you know, study that stuff. And it's become like, you know, I can't go back now. Now that you see things that way, you hyper scrutinize, and that's part of my job. And so,
do you sometimes yearn for the days when you didn't hyper scrutinize?
Yeah, like
you could just enjoy.
Yes and no. It's kind of like, you know, I don't read and write Chinese, but there was a time where I got up to maybe like 4,000 characters, close to that.
That's
like
a lot.
I really worked hard at it, right? And then, you know, at some point people say something along the lines of like, at first it's just these beautiful shapes that make up these characters, and then once you know how to read them, you can never go back to seeing them as just those beautiful shapes, right? Well, would you want to? I mean, you know, like go backwards.
That's a good way.
Yeah, but sometimes, I do say, you know, I'd like to just sit back and enjoy this, like, and not think
It'd
about it.
probably be more fun if it wasn't your job at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd make your job more difficult, but once you can like not have to worry about like having to see things that way, and then you can appreciate it for what it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Like when you listen to drums, do you mostly hear or music? Do you hear the drums like?
A lot of the time.
Like you can't really go back from that. Like you can't help it, but you're always listening to the drums.
It depends on the music. If they're simple, it's more pop oriented. Yeah. Then I'm like, I already know this formula, and then I'm moving on to just the song. But my favorite stuff to listen to is usually like prog or metal. Yeah. And I'm listening to the drums. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm into. Yeah.
See, I listen to a lot of music where my wife will be like, "Did you hear what they just said? How can you listen to that?" I was like, "I have no idea. I wasn't paying attention. I'm just listening to the beat." Because I will like phase out I don't do the lyrics
either. Yeah. I never listen to the lyrics.
Yeah, and some people only hear the lyrics.
That's how most people. Yeah. Now that I've talked about music a lot with a lot of people, it's very common. Like lyrics is number one, on the totem pole, and for me, lyrics are the bottom of the totem
Right.
pole.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of music I listen to is instrumental.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, it's
Most
like I
stuff
don't.
I do is instrumental.
And I've never been able to get into like
Yeah.
singer-songwriter stuff.
Yeah, I haven't listened to
I
like pop
can't get
music in
into-
forever. It seems like
Yeah.
actual like I feel old because like all these like popular songs are like at the end of the year they're like, oh, this was like the top 10 songs of the decade.
I've
Like
never even
I
heard
don't
it.
know like
Yeah.
half of those songs.
Yeah, yeah,
And like
yeah.
I swear I feel like relatively, not like completely disconnected
Yeah.
from what's going on, but like I was like, damn.
Well, I also think there's
Yeah.
another
Old.
thing at play, which I think plays into video games and movies, is because of the internet, you still have pop, right? Mainstream that has the most mass appeal. But now every little shade of variation in genre, whether it's movies, movie styles, video games, indie video games, music, especially music, like there are infinite rabbit holes for every type of music.
That's true.
Yeah.
And so it's like if you're into drum, like I have a friend that's way into drum and bass. It's like dude, there's endless drum and bass variations.
That no one
And he
will
can just
ever
go down
know
that
of.
rabbit hole and he's oblivious to all other music.
So
Yeah, that
you're
makes sense.
hitting on like this amazing point that I've been having, discussions with people about is I just mentioned earlier, decision fatigue, right?
Yes.
At some point, it's going to get to where your friends ask, "Have you seen this show?" Or listen to this song, and we're
Yeah.
going to have like no idea what they're talking about because there's so many endless amounts of genre and versions of it and stuff, and so a lot of it's already happening where like you're kind of being told, like what you said, mainstream or like pop is like this is what they kind of want you to hear, so it kind of comes first on the plate, and then most people just go with that, and then there's such a variety that it's almost easier to just stick with like what
Yep.
instead of trying out new stuff or
And what you know already.
and it's a rabbit hole, like you said.
what you know has a rabbit hole that will last you your whole life. Especially,
Yeah.
and it's also as the barriers of entry get lower. Like with music, the barrier to entry is incredibly low. Anyone with a $100 laptop and they can pirate whatever program they can make.
Yeah.
Make music,
like I have
sure.
my homies X and G. Gaji was on. He's like playing huge shows, doing shows with songs with Skrillex and shit. He just has like $100 laptop and a mouse. That's all he's ever used.
That's so
And
crazy.
He doesn't need
he's
anything,
like
yeah.
mid-tier. He's pushing. He's like they're really close to breaking and becoming something much
That's
bigger.
awesome.
And that's all he uses. Whereas the difference though, video games, the barrier to entry is still high. You need
Oh, yeah.
staff. You need money. But I think in the future, technology could get to the point where any one of us can make a video game
Or
by
a movie.
ourselves, or a movie.
Yeah, with
And
any
then-
actor that you want, you just press, you
Yeah.
pick them and you animate
Especially
them.
if like CG
yeah.
gets to the point, like I'm waiting for them to do, for a full-blown CG movie to become standard. Like for example, when I saw Alita, speaking
Yeah.
of awesome art,
Yeah.
Alita
Yeah.
Battle. Have you seen Alita?
Oh, yeah.
We talked about it
Yeah,
before.
Alita's awesome.
Fucking love that movie.
Yeah,
James
that movie's
Cameron.
great.
That movie is so much CG. I'm like, why even have a few real actors? Why don't they just go full? It
Yeah,
would be
they
better
might as well.
because
It would
the-
take away the uncanny valley of it all.
Yeah.
the parts that look shitty are the mix of the two.
Yeah.
that kind of throw you off.
They almost want that weird aspect, like he's
they're going for that,
uncanny
yeah.
valley. But it's funny so this topic of like decision fatigue or like what to pick or what's being told to you, right? Some people are embracing it with like this is going to pick out your clothes or what you're going to eat today or what movie you're going to watch or whatever, and sometimes that like people like it,
The
right? So-
efficiency.
Some
of it.
people want that.
Yeah.
It's good
well,
for
here's
them.
something
Yeah.
that I've realized lately is like
Minimalism.
I can sit on Netflix for like an hour looking for something and then
Never watch
and then
anything.
just be too tired to watch it.
Dude,
So
that has happened.
So
to
we
me.
have
Yes.
cable now,
Scrolling.
right?
Yeah.
And I noticed it's almost like in a weird way, it's like okay, when I was a kid and this movie came on. There'd be commercials, but
You
ultimately,
need those
if you don't
limitations.
sit there and watch it when it's on, like you're gonna miss it.
Yes.
And so I love it because we'll have like an HBO channel that's live, and you'll turn on and there'll be a movie on that. It's like okay, cool, this is what I want to watch, sort of. And then you notice that you're like paying way more attention to it because you can't stop it
Because you don't have
every
the
5
option.
seconds.
Yes,
yeah, and then I like
yes,
enjoy
yes.
it in a weird way where it's like I'm being forced to, and I like it. It's like kind of nice because it reminds me of like when I was growing up.
Too many. We're not wired for that many possibilities. I think that's a principle that applies to every aspect in life.
Yeah.
Like even making music. I've talked to my brother who he's like this uncrowned musical genius. The reason he's one of the most talented people I've ever met in my entire life, but he can't put limitations on his creativity because he's too like, he's almost like, he's not on the spectrum, but I joke.
So it's
like,
never finished.
I joke like he's on the spectrum because he's like this creative mad genius.
He's a savant.
And he needs, like, when I make tunes, when I first made my first album, I told myself all I can use are stock plugins and I can only use this one formula.
Yeah.
And those limitations are what made it possible for me to actually finish something. And I think in a greater scale, that happens with everything. Like, we have too many movies to choose from. We have way too much music to choose from. And it feels good because we have this built-in circuit that's like, well, if we don't analyze every choice, then we'll never know if we made the right choice.
Yeah.
The best thing to watch, the best thing to listen to. But deep down, you know it's infinitive, so you have this like constant anxiety.
And you also don't want to waste time watching something bad, so it's like a risk.
But then you don't watch anything because you're spending so much time trying to make a decision.
Yeah.
And it feels good when someone just says like, we're gonna just shave all these possibilities down. Like you said, this is a channel. This is what we have on right now. Take it or leave it.
It's like if you were on an island with like 10 other dudes and they just dropped off some random chick, like you would all fight to the death.
You'd be so stoked.
And you would love her so much. Until you move to the bigger island and there's like a bunch of other options, and then you'd be like,
Yeah. I think there's something.
I didn't assess this properly.
I think the ability to consciously build like a limiting framework of your life is a life skill for the modern era.
It's exercising your agency. It's really what it comes down to. Like that's the whole point, of life for a lot of religions, and that's what I feel like we're kind of getting stripped of. Because here's another example: is in my industry, there's generalists and specialists. Generalists can do like 5 things, like composite, lighting, animation and texture, let's say, or you do
one thing really good,
really good. And I like always relate it to languages, and maybe there's someone that speaks 10 languages but probably not as good as that one guy speaks that one language perfectly, right? And so I'm always telling my students to kind of like, the sooner you just narrow down exactly what you're going to do, you'll be happier, and you'll get a job sooner, you'll end up getting feeling more accomplished sooner, rather than trying to learn 10 languages at once, never being fluent in any of them, and maybe getting a job where you might use like 2 of those skills or something. Where schools go against that. They say the opposite. They need to learn everything so they have more choices. They need to know the whole spectrum so that they can decide better. And I'm always kind of like, and also spend like 10 times as much money at your school.
Yes. That makes sense.
And so I've always telling students, and then I got in trouble from a couple of schools not to do that. They're like, just don't tell them to not take our classes. You can approach it in a different way, but like deep down, that's kind of how I believe is that, and even within the programs, or like you just said, with like when you make your music, you kind of stick to these rules, and then you can form a style, and then you can get really good.
Because the program itself is unlimited.
Yeah, you get really good with the way that you do it.
Yeah.
Like in like a painter that only uses these brushes, or like only paints this content, is going to get famous way more than the guy that's trying everything, every type of medium and every type.
True.
Yeah. So I feel like that's, and now kids today seeing all these different options, like how are they going to choose?
Right.
It's crazy. It's insane. It's like Netflix is life.
And there's like unlimited amounts of knowledge, even just on YouTube alone. Like a kid can learn how to do a backflip
forever
one day.
Yeah.
All of a sudden move on to like how to edit in Premiere, how to cook. He could like literally try everything he wanted and do something new every day.
Oops. Yeah, that's true. I wonder how. I mean, I've had this conversation. We're gonna go off the rails, but let's do this. I talked to this guy, like just the idea of the internet and all the possibilities and what that does to a young developing brain and what can be open. I was talking to a friend of mine who has a 17-year-old, and he was like venting, hey, my 17-year-old is dating this 15-year-old girl. And he was just talking about Snapchat, communication, how wild this girl is. She's like selling pictures to men in their 20s and 30s. And then like trying to blackmail them and say, I'm going to turn you into the police. Like this is a 15-year-old.
Fully embracing her.
Fully embrace. And the only thing that enables this is she's been on her phone since she was 11. And like, this is her
game. It's her video game.
This is her world. Yeah. This is her video game. And his son's wrapped up, and he like called the girl's dad, and the dad he has absentee dad. I guess they live in like a trailer and they move around. Like, she's just like, I kind of felt bad for this girl. I could kind of get an idea of like, no wonder you're going down this path.
Yeah.
Because you're in this bad home. Your parents don't care about you. And then I was telling him, because he was talking about how his son's addiction to the phone and this whole situation. And I know from marketing and what I do and that like my peek behind the curtain in that world, every app you're using, and every site, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, you have thousands of literal geniuses that are spending all day trying to figure out how to make this more addictive. How can I make you spend more time on this site so I can serve up more ads and I can make more money per visit? And that's what I do. It's like, how do I get you to stay on the site, go to more, and I can serve up more ads and get you more clicks? And I'm part of the problem, but basically.
It's funny you mentioned that, 'cause like for work, like everyone's like, you need to be on TikTok, like that new app. It's mostly for like younger kids, but for the most part, so like anyway, like for like, you know, just experimenting.
Oh, you're not even the mic.
Just for like experimenting, like, okay, like I want to see like what this app's all about and see if I can understand it.
Did it suck you in?
Yeah. And I get it, but the funny thing is like these kids, like right now, since it's such a new app, it's really easy for like anyone to blow up. It's like the Wild West again. It's like when YouTube first started and just like the randomest shit would blow you up in like one video. You know, your first video could get hundreds of thousands of views and you can get an audience or a following in like a day. So I'm like, all right, like let me see, like, you know, so I've been experimenting just to see like how it works and all that stuff. And it's so addicting. Like I went with like just like a really closed mind, like this is for dumb like teenagers and tweens to dance and sing, lip sync to. And I started messing with the app and started like posting videos, and like some would get like some views, some would get like no hits, and some would do like pretty decent. Like, oh, so like every time I do
experimenting with it.
Yeah, so I'm experimenting with, but I could feel that addiction building.
You
Like
feel it.
Every time I'd post a video and it would like do good, I'm like, oh, I get that little adrenaline rush and a little hit. I'm like, oh,
they got you.
They got me.
That's by design. That's what I'm saying.
It's like every time I do, it's like a lotto scratcher. Every time I scratch or I post a video, I'm throwing another lottery out there. I'm gambling. Like, ooh, that one got one. Let's see what this next one does. Nothing. Like it was full on. Like it was like gambling.
What you got to realize,
like gambling. I'm still doing it.
Like gambling. What's happening, from what I understand, is so when you gamble, your dopamine goes up a little bit, right?
It's a total dopamine.
You do that more and more. Okay, so let's say we're in this situation, it's dopamine or opioids or whatever chemical, whatever receptor. Your baseline level becomes elevated, right? I'm looking at porn all day, or I'm looking at.
Oh, and then you become dependent on that baseline.
And then your body will take away receptors to try to level you out. So then you drop down back to what's considered normal levels, but you don't have the receptors for it, so you feel like shit. And then, so then you got to get another hit.
All because of TikTok.
That's exactly how it works. Because if your video doesn't do as well, you actually do get a little like, oh, why didn't that one do as good? So you do it again, and you're like, all right, that one did good. Okay, cool.
So I just wanted to drop this.
And then it's told that high and low. Like I get it, and I'm just experimenting with it. Like it's not my life, like some of these kids are. But like I'm just messing around.
So you know how the idea of like things coming back into trend. Kind of cycle, right?
Cycles
like clothes and music and right now the big thing is like 80s based movies, like the genre,
Stranger
Things and all that, and the remaking of all the Stephen King horror stuff. And then how kids are like really into weird 90s shows like Friends, like you were just mentioning earlier, right? And I was talking to my wife about this, and I was like, why do you think it's not just trends coming back, but I was like, why do you think kids nowadays, first of all, consider the 90s to be that long ago, because that makes me feel super old, like they're like going back to, like that's like old for them, or like the 80s. And she's like, well, you know, because it's a trend that's coming back around. I said, no, it's not. I said, think about it. Before 2010, we were pretty advanced with computers and technology, but not everybody had a smartphone, right?
Not everybody had access to the whole
thing, now ever since 2010, like pretty much any movie, if it's based in present time, is really just like everyone has instant communication, and everything is based half in reality and half on social media. In every movie, if you pay attention to it, like once phones are part of daily life, storytelling has completely changed. Because it used to be a whole movie about like, how are we going to find this guy and tell him this thing? And you have to spend all this time looking for him.
Now we just text him.
Exactly. Yeah. So now the story has changed. And so I was telling my wife, I was like, I think the reason why these millennials and these younger kids are so obsessed with like the time before the phone is because it's not real to them, but they like it. It's better.
It's a fantasy world.
It's a slower time, and it's easier to tell a story. It's easier to learn the lesson. It's easier to love the character because there's an actual story instead of just like who wrote what emoji. everything is becoming like all just so fast that we can't even tell a story anymore.
I think kids are. I mean, it makes me worried when just about what it could be good and bad. Like, so every old man has complained about the upcoming generation since the dawn of time.
I'm on my way
Fucking
there, dude.
degenerates. When I was a motherfucker, blah blah blah. Right. So I don't know how much of what I'm seeing is that. I know that's a part of it.
Yeah,
that's been
you
since
feel
the dawn
old
of
all
time.
of a sudden. Yeah.
But I'm also worried. Like, well, what does it? Like, what are the pros and cons for a kid developing with this basically possessive demon, the smartphone, in their hand?
The mark of the beast.
How is that going to wire their brain? There might be good things. We might get like some genius kids out of it, right? Some like Elon Musk 2.0, whose brain.
Don't you
is
just kind of
developed.
feel like they're going to communicate in a way that we can't even fathom?
We can't even
yet?
fathom.
Yeah, it's coming.
I mean, like meme culture and slaying like is going to progress.
Well, the
Yeah.
whole idea of the mark of the beast is that, like, at some point, or, I'm not going to get biblical with it, but just the
Let's do it.
the idea that you have a connection to the source, which right now you do through your phone. So you have access to any information, whether it be your maps or communicating or your questions about something stupid that you need to ask Google about, whatever. Well, that's just the beginning of, like, the idea of having a chip in your brain, which would access the internet to your brain. So if you want to know something about any given topic, you have instant
Elon
connection
Musk is working on
to
a
all
neural
that
interface.
information.
Oh yeah, you're telling me
So,
about
but
that.
then it could also turn up your sight, your hearing abilities, your memory abilities, probably physical abilities, even,
Eventually,
right?
I mean, it's
Yeah.
all connected.
All by having this
Yeah.
chip connected to the source. So I think that that's like something we can't even fathom right now. But I think it's like your brain is only capable of so much. But if it's connected to the entire internet, what you're capable
Dude, that's
of.
the premise. That's the premise to my Mormon,
every movie.
Mormon remix of sci-fi. My grand movie or video game I'll never make
Morphi.
is
Mormon.
like basically like when you're 8.
Yeah.
And you get baptized in Mormon culture in this sci-fi world. When you're 8, you get injected with nanomachines.
And then you have the
level 1.
spirit, and then you can connect
that's
to
the
everybody.
gift of the Holy Ghost, and the nanomachines are connected to the cloud, and you have a real-time readout of your body, right? And they can keep you, and like that's how the level phase 1. It's just like it cures you from sickness. It makes all your hormones perfectly level.
Yeah.
It regulates you. Then when you get the priesthood, like then you go in a little bit deeper, and now it can start messing with your thoughts. And eventually, you work your way up the ladder like Scientology or Mormonism. And when you become exalted, you merge. You merge with the source.
Singularity,
The
kind of,
singularity,
yeah.
and you lose your identity. And this source, that's what's powering this whole civilization. Anyway,
Dude, I have had that conversation with people about the only thing that makes you human or unique at all is imperfection. Because if you're exactly like Jesus, let's say, you're just a cookie cutter of the one, you're actually nothing anymore.
I've had that thought when I grew up Mormon. I was like, if we're all perfect, then aren't we all the same?
Yeah. And I had this conversation with my brother, and I go, because there's always the best way, which is the one way, which is God's way. And he goes, no, there's actually innumerable ways to do the right thing. And I was like, I thought there was just
That's
one
what my
way.
dad told me. Because I asked my dad that question, and he said, well, perfection allows for individuality. And I'm like,
but isn't there just
it?
Isn't there the most perfect way? Wouldn't that be the perfect way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I never, that didn't work with me. And I think that's just my dad.
Well, without getting too deep into Mormon doctrine, I think that's what the kingdoms are about, is that by keeping a certain level of your imperfections, which makes you still uniquely you by choice, is going to exist in those other kingdoms.
That'd be a good way
and
to
you
pitch
can
it,
choose
yeah.
that if you want it. Instead of just being a cookie cutter of the perfect one.
But then no one would be, well, I don't know. How many people think, let's say we get to the pearly gates, and there's a guy like, look, you can stay you, but you got to go down here. It's a pretty nice party. Or you can merge. You can merge, because I feel like I've met God on a crazy psychedelic trip.
Yeah.
It was a giant ball of light and understanding and love. And they say, or you can merge with the source. What would you do? Would you stay an individual, or would you merge?
I think that
That's tough.
everyone's going to continually progress, right?
Eventually
But
merge?
here's the thing where they get into Mormonism claims there's no reincarnation, and reincarnation by definition would be coming back as something else or starting before as something else.
Yeah.
And what if reincarnation just means like starting the video game over again and playing a different level?
New Game Plus.
Yeah. You Game Plus.
To be honest, I think you are going to get really bored in eternity. and like the idea of like coming back and being born and having everything erased and starting from scratch is going to be like really enticing.
Dude,
That's a good point.
Have
Yeah,
you
I
read
never
a
thought
You know
book?
what I mean? Like
you,
maybe you're already there.
Maybe this is. Maybe
We're already singular.
We're already in the sin. But maybe that's what
We
this
got
is.
bored.
We got bored.
And we wanted to have it's called a brain erase, you know, and we come down here and there's a Rick and Morty about it where they go to that video game arcade and they play
Yes.
a game and
Yeah.
Morty gets born into it.
Yeah, yeah.
He thinks he has a wife and kid when he comes out of it.
Yes.
And the whole time Rick just wants to go there and play the game, but he has to go do something. Yeah.
That idea has been sort of fleshed out. There's a short story by Scott Adams called God's Debris.
Uh-huh.
And it's the same idea that basically we reached perfection, but we got bored.
Yeah.
So we destroyed ourselves. God destroyed itself into all these consciousnesses
Yeah.
so it could live a new experience and then reform back to God, and then it destroys itself, and it's just in this cycle.
What's the game where come on, name a huge video game that is about
I should know it. Give me some
the
hints.
creatures that come and like tell the humans
That could be a lot of games. I need some more detail. The creatures that talk to the humans.
they
There's-
always have like a little number 7 with like a red people see name a really big video game.
a really big video game with
Yeah.
creatures with a number on
No,
their
no,
chest?
the number that you see like people wearing that represents the game. That like they'll have it on their car like on a sticker or a
That is not ringing any bells.
Me
There's probably
neither.
some listener like, you dumb assholes, it's this. So the characters have a number on them?
Is
You
it like
haven't
what
named
kind
one
of,
video game yet, either of you.
Oh, there's so many big video games. It's
Well,
like
yeah.
name one.
okay, you have, but I know it's like I can't think of one like within that premise. Like you have like God of War, Uncharted, Call of Duty. You know, like
that.
None of those are even close. Like those are the ones that pop up into my
Creatures?
head. Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, just keep explaining. Just explain.
I
Is
don't
it like
know
a
enough
horror
about- I
genre?
don't know
Like,
enough
what's like
about
the-
it, but it is kind of like a start over of humanity where they like
Okay, there's like the Dark Souls series is built around a cycle. The Surge,
Bloodborne.
Bloodborne.
Or the naming all from software games.
Those are all, but they all have this cycle
yeah.
nature to the lore.
Is it like a horror type game or is it an action like
Sci-fi, horror,
it's sci-fi.
sci-fi,
Oh, sci-fi.
Yeah.
Sci-fi.
and creatures with numbers.
No, there's no numbers on the creatures. There's numbers on the Marines, I believe, and so people sometimes
Gears
have
of
a
War?
t-shirt.
Gears of War?
It's not Gears of War.
Dead Space? That's no Marines. in
Mass
that.
Effect.
Yes.
Mass Effect
Mass
number
Effect.
7.
Yeah.
There's a 7
Oh,
on his thing.
N7. N7.
It's like-
yeah.
Yes.
Dude, I'm not wearing it. I have an
Yes,
N7
so
jacket.
thank you. That took
Mass
way too
Effect.
long.
Yeah, there we go.
I was
That
testing
is a
your
big
guys'
game.
video game knowledge, and you
got there
guys
eventually.
you passed, but
It's one of my
barely.
favorite series.
So in that
yeah,
game,
the Reapers. The Reapers come and they cycle
it's
through
the same exact
yeah.
idea what you're saying about where it's almost like humanity reaches its pinnacle and then it sort of like starts over,
Yeah,
and the whole
yeah,
like
yeah.
idea that the Reapers know that or something like
Well,
that.
yeah.
right?
So the premise for those of you who don't know, it's not spoiler alert. The series is 10 years old. So if you haven't played it, whatever.
Yeah.
There's like these synthetic beings, the Reapers, that live outside of our galaxy, and every I think it's like 80,000 years, 100,000 years, they come in and they basically wipe out whatever biological life to reset it and kind of see what.
But they're really like saving the humans from themselves or something like that.
There's more to it,
Yeah.
but that's the premise. And then they wiped out previous civilizations, and the whole point is you're trying to stop the cycle of these. And no one knows where they're basically like God, a representation of God.
Yeah.
No one knows where these giant synthetic beings
But
came
don't you
from.
find out at the end that the humans like built them to come and
I
end
think
them because
yeah,
it's part of
they
it,
originally
and
like
they
an-
save them from themselves because if they don't recycle, they'll
They'll just
eventually
killing themselves off or-
go, yeah, something along like
Something along the lines of-
it keeps them in existence because if they don't send the Reapers to start them over, they'll eventually cycle out and be
yes,
non-existent.
it's like kind of like when they like
We'll blow our planet up if we don't have someone come and
Yes,
like
yeah.
wipe us out. Like war keeps humanity alive, kind of thing.
yeah, it's sort of like when they like burn parts of forest down to make the forest healthier.
Yeah.
To like seed it, kind of
Right.
a similar idea. You know what other game is not totally similar, but you played Horizon, right?
I love Horizon.
Dude,
That's a
the
great
story.
game.
Do you know much about that game? Anyone that
No.
worked on it? That's a great artistic style sci-fi story. But the concept is they create an AI. Like we were talking about drones.
Yeah.
And getting hacked. So they create a monster, like basically a robot that lives off biomass, which DARPA has created. By the way, I don't know if you read this. There's these like robot dogs that eat their they've been engineered to eat the dead bodies on battlefields, and the dead bodies is their fuel source. This
So
is
you
a
can just
real
keep
thing.
going.
This is like a real machine that's been built,
That's
or a
terrifying.
prototype. It's not mass produced, at least for we know a prototype. Well, that's the premise of this game. They build these machines that run on a network. They're all like drones. They live off biomatter. Well, they get hacked. They go rogue. They end up like wiping the whole planet out. And right before they're wiped out, the humans do this last ditch effort where they create like these arcs and they cryo freeze people. And they're waiting for, and then they launch these satellites in the sky that basically it's going to take 100,000 years to crack, to hack the network of the machines because the encryption is so strong. So they put humanity in like stasis, and then like 100,000 years later, they crack the machines, they shut all the machines down, then they release the pods, and it's like Adam and Eve are the first two humans that come out of the pod, and that's like how
Awesome.
how we started.
So it's very Mass Effect.
Yeah, so it's like
this
it's
whole
like
cycle and the-
post-apocalyptic.
yeah.
It's like prehistoric times, but everything's like technological and futuristic.
new,
It's like all
Horizon?
it's a few years old now.
Yeah, and they have all these robot dinosaurs, and they explain how the AI went rogue, and they tried to recreate life, but it's all synthetic, and so these robots are imitating animals, and these like AI machines, they basically have like 3D printers. They mine raw materials, and they can print.
Dude, awesome.
Yeah, it's
really
See,
cool.
this is
It's a cool
why
concept.
I love the stories of video games and the artwork
so cool.
and stuff. And no,
Yeah.
I love hearing about them and reading about them and stuff. It's just the actual gameplay is maybe where.
What you can do, I did with Devil May Cry 5, is now people, speaking of YouTube and watching, people will do, they will do like mega cuts of games where they put all the cutscenes together.
Yeah.
And you can just watch the game
Yeah,
instead
awesome.
of playing it.
Get
And
the
I did
story.
that with Devil May Cry 5. Have you beat it yet?
Not yet. No.
Damn it.
I was playing Jedi
We need to
Fallen
talk about
Order.
the story.
Yeah.
But
That's on my next. That's my
yeah,
next
it's
list.
good. So like, I
games to
didn't
finish.
want to play that game, but I'm interested in the world and the lore. And now the cutscenes in games have gotten so good. Someone put those cutscenes. I'm like, it's just like watching a Pixar movie,
Yeah.
basically.
Well, the way my students explain it to me also is that like it's the modern version of what the movie was, but now you get to be a part of it because
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
games have gotten so good. You're technically like in the movie, making
Yeah.
decisions.
Games like Uncharted.
Yeah.
Like, that's
yeah,
That's
basically
you're
playing
playing
a movie at
Yeah.
that point.
yeah.
A lot of games like that. Even like what was it like Hellborn or
Hellborn?
Hell. They just announced like the second game on Xbox.
Oh, Hellblade.
Hellblade.
Hellblade
That's
Sensuous
like
Sacrifice.
yeah, that's like
Yeah, yeah.
basically like a big old movie.
That's
you know?
like having a panic attack. That's what that game is.
I also understand
Yeah.
that watching other people play the video games in their eyes is similar to us just watching a character in a movie. It's like that character has been determined by the writer to do A and
That's a
B,
good
and you're
point.
watching it.
Yeah, that's
and
a
if you're
good
watching
point.
someone else in a video game that's playing the game, you're technically just watching their version of. Because that's the thing about video games is there can be multiple versions of how the story's told. You know, you might have the same goals or ending, but isn't that kind of the thing? They're each one's unique because you're playing it. The
Yeah,
way
and
you,
yeah, depending on the game, like games
Yeah.
give you more options, like how to play.
Yeah, and a lot of games will have like you can take the evil path or you can take the good path.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what
Depending
Fable
on
was
your
ethics
supposed
codes.
to be like.
Yeah.
Ethics codes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always
Or Red Dead's that way. Like you can play like as like a good like
a good guy or you can be,
or you can
yeah.
be like a total dirtbag.
When I was
just kill
younger,
and pillage
it should
people.
be you think it'd be the other way around. When I was younger, I always took the light path. Cuz I was like
Yeah.
I had this idea like, well, the game developers, because a lot of times games like you'll have a skill tree. Like speaking
Yeah.
of when you worked on Infamous,
Yeah.
Infamous has a moral system.
Oh,
you
yeah,
remember?
uh-huh.
You can go chaos or you can go light, and
Yeah.
you get different powers based on the direction you take. And I'd always take the light path because usually they would design. This is how they would usually do it. If you take the light path, you don't get as strong early, but at the very end of the game, the way your build works, you have the best powers. Whereas the chaos pass, you get stronger powers earlier, but by the time you get to the end of the game, you're not as strong as a character. Like a lot of times, like the chaos path would give you a lot of area of effect attacks, where you can just like destroy everything in your path, and the light path would give you like precision high power attacks because you only want to kill the bad guys, not the civilians. Because in Infamous, if you want to, you can just kill all the people along with the bad guys, and that puts you on the
I
dark
have
path.
an idea for a game, and if you decide to cut it out of this later and steal it and make it,
Let's
that's
make it
fine.
okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's do it.
So basically, they have these sort of chronological games now where you're, instead of just playing one character, it's like all of humanity where like, you start in the prehistoric and then you work your way through Renaissance up to sci-fi. You
Yeah,
know what I'm talking
yeah,
about?
yeah.
Those games. But the idea is
Is that a
there's
Civilization game?
yeah, civilization
Yeah,
games.
Civilization. Yeah.
You're either the bad or the good influence, so you could call it devils versus angels or something like that, where you're influencing the people.
So you're just like the source of influence,
but
trying
not like in a broad scale. Like you actually are picking like specific characters
to
and
tempt
like,
or to inspire.
yeah. But you're seeing all this behind the veil stuff of like what's
that'd
going
be
on.
badass.
Yeah, and you're trying to like ultimately like keep this guy from becoming the king who's going to save the day and blah blah blah. Maybe that's your incentive as the bad demons. Like you want to stop this world from getting to a certain point, or you want to. So you're fighting has spiritual influences against each other, and
That'd
you
be
can pick.
awesome.
You could pick which side you want to be on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Kid would obviously pick the light side
Well,
because
I was going to say when I was young, I picked the light side, but now when I play, I always pick the dark side. Always.
you've become a Sith, have you?
I've become a Sith, yeah. Because I've realized now the games are really balanced, and it's just cosmetic.
Yeah.
Usually by the time you get to the end of
Yeah.
the game, like you can beat the game with either build. They're both
Yeah.
good. So I'm like, the dark side always looks cooler.
Yeah.
Like the
That's a good
designs
point.
are cooler, the effects are cooler, and like you just feel cooler on the dark side.
So
That's true.
when you go into the game, the first thing is like, okay, so it's an ethics game, good and bad, whatever. And like you pick whatever side, and like the goals of humanity are either A or B, and you either want to stop those or help those or something along those lines. And now you're playing on a bigger scale of like, you know, it used to be just one character, then all of civilization. Now it's like you want to influence like, you know, these people to do one or the other thing. And then you could almost in the beginning in the options pick which religion, you know, the game is based off of, right?
So,
like,
yeah.
we need to get this
The
guy
biblical version, the Hindu
to the
version.
8th level of heaven and
Buddhist
cross
version.
the bridge before this game ends, you know,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
the Mormon version of it or
whatever that would be. Yeah, that would be fun. It would be like
Keep it all
You could even do a
anti-bias.
biblical like.
That's how the games are?
No, this is a game I
This
was
is an
the game-
idea. Like you could
Got
do
you.
a biblical take.
I thought that's how Civilization was, but that sounds fun. Actually,
No,
like in more interested in playing
civilization
that.
is that, but you're just like he's saying, take it one step further.
Yeah,
where
and like
Civilization's like based on like your resources and you have
Yes.
wars
how
with
this
each
one
other.
we're playing
and,
like as if you're God.
Yeah.
Like
This would be more
strategic
playing-
places to go
Yeah.
or whatever. But maybe it's like, look, everything's about like dominating the universe and taking over all the resources. That's like yesterday. We want to talk about souls here. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
that would be
how many can I you know, how many
Yeah,
can I
maybe it would
captivate?
be-
How many
You're
can
the
I
devil. You're trying to, like-
enslave? Yeah.
So there's this,
trying to be Christ is like this.
yes, like you could be Christ. So there's this game on I don't know. If
Like I want to get more. At like the end of the
That's the name of the
civilization, the
game.
best.
You
person with
beat
the most
Christ.
souls. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a game on PS1 called Valkyrie Profile where you play. It's set on Norse mythology. The Battle of Ragnarok is coming, and you know
Okay.
it's coming.
Yeah.
And the game has a timer. The end of the world, Ragnarok is coming in like 12 days or whatever it is. And your job is to recruit as many souls and prepare them for the final
Yeah.
battle. And based on your performance, you'll either survive the final battle or not. You can do the same thing, like say you base it on biblical like revelation. So you play as either the Holy Ghost, the Spirit of Christ,
Yeah.
or you play as Lucifer, and you're trying to influence and prep the world and set the board for Armageddon. And based
Yeah.
based on
Yeah, exactly. You
how
get what I'm
play,
saying.
either the devil wins the final battle or Jesus wins the final battle.
And
See,
then you
that-
tie it into Darksiders and it's war and all those other guys. that pop in.
So it's either like zoomed in or zoomed out. Like if you play this on a grand scale, it might be like too broad, but it could be like specific characters in the game that you're influencing.
Yes.
That have like an
Throughout
actual
age.
that have an actual like one of them could be a Caesar or
Yes.
like a
And
president.
so your job
or-
is like, okay, right now the year is whatever year there was this famous Caesar, and you can either be an evil spirit that's trying to lead him to make bad decisions,
Yeah.
to set the dark side up
Yeah.
for the win in Armageddon, or you can play as the good spirit, and it's like the evil's like King David in the Bible. Like you're the guy that's like, yo, you see that girl Bathsheba down there taking a bath? I know you're already married, bro, but why don't you just send her husband off to war?
Yeah.
And then
See,
take her for
you get it.
yourself, bro.
Play just
you
the
get
tip.
it.
Yeah.
People would get all into it, trying to be dark.
Yeah.
And then if you get like enough points or you find this secret passage, like you can get a time machine, right? Where you can like go back and like maybe alter
Reroll.
history.
Yeah, alter history.
Which could be another game in itself right there, where like the game is called Time Machine and you have to go and like prevent or make sure these certain things. This is, by the way, what Umbrella Academy, that show we were talking about, it's kind of about where like you can go back in time and start. It's awesome. You should watch it.
That does sound cool.
It's really
I didn't
cool.
know.
Yeah.
I've seen the thumbnail on Netflix.
It's very comic book. I mean, I think you would dig it. It's one.
Have you guys seen the show on Netflix called Dark? It's time travel. It's a German show.
Yeah, I've tried it.
You tried it?
Yeah.
I tried again. I mean, it's all in German.
It's another one of those things where like you watch an episode and you're like, do I keep investing this time or is this?
Because you know it's gonna take.
Because you definitely don't want to feel the worst thing that can happen is you felt like your time has been wasted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, don't you read that in the comments a lot where people are like,
I want my hour back.
Yeah, that was a waste of 4 minutes. They're so pissed. You know?
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, and that would be a good idea. It'd be like basically Civilization, but yeah, you could. So you go through time. You start with Adam, and you go through all the major world leaders.
Yeah.
And you try to influence them, and rewrite history.
Yeah.
Based on the light or the dark.
There's so
path.
much you can do with it. See, they're using the idea of civilization in a grand scale and time in chronological order, and then of course there's everything about takeover, and war and like power. But then like combining those two into like another level of like at the end of this game, I don't want to just like kill this guy. I want to corrupt his soul, change his life, make him obey me because he wants to,
I want to ruin him from the inside.
So you can play as Jesus or the devil, like, and how many souls you save or corrupt.
Yeah.
And then you have a battle at the end.
And it can be...
And the battle's like Warcraft. You have all your like souls and you move your
There's
units.
a fighting game right now that is like
Battle of the Gods.
Yeah, you
I've
can play
seen
as Jesus and
You
like
can
his
play-
weapons like the cross.
And he has the cross. It's I'm
or
sure
Buddha.
people are gonna get pissed about
dude,
that.
I'm sure there's.
And then at the end of the game, you're Armageddon. Like if you got more souls than the other person when that war happens, like I mean,
and you can play the war like an RTS game. That would be cool. You know what? I love the idea of souls. That's why I love the game Control. The idea of like paranormal and souls crossing over with sci-fi hasn't been done a lot.
That's true.
Where
Yeah.
Control, this game Control. I was actually hoping when I asked you like what games do you think have the
you
coolest
secretly
style.
worked on it?
I was hoping you'd say Control, or because I just think like the visual style, the writing style, the lore and the world they built in this game called Control is amazing. What they've done is they made this fake federal bureau called the FBC, the Federal Bureau of Control, and it's a secret department of the government that investigates paranormal stuff, and most of it's bullshit.
It's like Men in Black.
Yeah. Aliens. It's kind of like ghost. Like they investigate ghost stories, and they find that a small percentage of things are actually really paranormal. And then they start looking into it. And the whole game is based like around you show up, you find your way to the headquarters of this secret organization, and anyway, it combines usually ghost stories and sci-fi. Sci-fi is usually aliens, right? But they've taken sci-fi and they've taken the idea of multiple dimensions and frequencies, and that's where demons and ghosts and paranormal. It is all based in reality.
There's a documentary on Netflix that you would dig. It's about this. It's John Podesta, who's like Hillary's, or I don't know.
Isn't Podesta like some child pedophile guy?
Yeah, he for the whole Pizzagate thing. He was,
that's him.
It was his laptop or whatever. But he's the guy they interview in this documentary. And it's about there's a department in the Pentagon that decides what information they can and cannot release regarding alien tech. And the reason that in Podesta saying this in the interview, he's like, well, it's because they're all old white male Christians in this group in the Pentagon that can say yes or no to what they can release. And he's like, and they think it's all demonic and satanic, but really it's just science. And he's giving this whole documentary about how like we should have access to all this
That's
stuff.
creepy coming from him.
Yeah. And then he also said that all these guys in the this section of the Pentagon are like priesthood holders and stuff. It's really trippy, dude.
Weird.
Yeah. And how they keep this like balance of like what they can show us because it's they say too demonic. It's like demonic.
The alien
demon tech.
It's demon tech.
Ooh, I like that. That sounds cool.
Demon
It's the name of the game.
Demon tech.
Yeah.
There's the alien. I've kind of I've always wanted to believe in aliens, and I've always liked the idea of aliens because the universe is so big. But I always thought I read a book by Carl Sagan when I was in my early 20s, Demon Haunted World. Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, most alien stuff is bullshit, and not all of it, but a lot of it is like fake stories. And then do you guys Tom DeLonge, the singer for
yeah.
singer for, so he's been in aliens forever. he's been claiming a bunch of crazy shit. He goes on Rogan and seems like he's on cocaine. Like he keeps sniffing his nose, like wiping his nose. He's talking super erratic. He's claiming all this crazy shit, but he won't actually say, I can't say this name. I can't tell you more. And it's like not a very good interview. And I was like, man, Tom DeLonge's full of shit. Like I really wanted him to have something of substance, and I was really bummed out about it. And he claimed
you wasted your time.
He claimed to have these videos. Well, dude, he did release those videos. Those videos were then later confirmed in the New York Times of like actual videos of F-16s and fighters tracking on objects that were unknown.
I remember those came out.
And then, one of the pilots in those videos went on Rogan and was
talked
like,
about it.
I was the guy that chased this object. And this is what he's like, I've only seen one. This is the one time it's happened. I chased this object. This is what it looked like. This is how it went down.
And he said, look, 2 words, demon tech.
And he said, it's demon tech. These aren't just aliens. They're interdimensional. Alex Jones says they're interdimensional vampires that are here to like, but it made me wonder, like, okay, there's all this crazy conspiracy, but is demon tech really that absurd? The idea, like we were joking about it, like demon tech, but I'm to this point now, I'm like, that might be possible. Aliens might be demons. Demons might actually be aliens.
Well, that's a big theory out there.
Yeah.
Is that they claim in the name of science to be something, but really are just what the Bible has said they've always been, and it's just trying to...
Or just mixing up what demons and aliens
words.
are.
We just used different words over time to describe the same thing.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a whiz real quick.
What?
I need to take a whiz.
You need to take a whiz?
Yeah.
We can do a pee break.
Yeah. Shishi break.
Well, we can wrap it up. You want to be done? I'll tell you.
Yeah, I probably should get back to the baby.
Let's, dude, we're like 2+ hours, so
okay.
Let's wrap it up. Kelton Cram, thanks for coming on. Where can people find your shit online, your art?
Probably easiest way is just to Google my name.
Kelton Cram?
Yeah, and then we'll take you to
How much can you actually show publicly, like what you've worked on?
So the rule is
is it hard not to be able to tell your friends about it, your family?
Quiet, Todd. No, so if a movie's come out and the designs that you worked on are public now and they've been released, normally you can show it.
You can show it.
If it's designs that weren't approved and they still have ownership and they don't want you to, or if, for the most part.
They might recycle them or use them
Yeah,
later.
and sometimes like a lot of the big franchises will do the art of books, which always come out for every movie.
Collector's stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff's always at Barnes & Noble. And so I've been in about maybe 25 books where some of my art's in the art of this movie or that movie.
Awesome.
And so that's where you get a lot of the credit as far as because another thing is you're not in the credits in the movie a lot if you're in pre-production. So getting the credit on screen is a lot different than getting into an art of books. And so there's that. And then if a movie gets shelved, as they call it, where it never comes out, I think the general status quo rule is that after 4.5 years to 5 years,
you can share it.
You can.
Okay.
Or you just do and then ask for forgiveness instead of permission.
Later.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you really quick. Do you get really nervous when you're traveling with your laptop and stuff?
No, I never really had a problem. I don't actually use laptops, so that's one thing. I have desktops, but if someone were to break in and steal my stuff, it's all protected by the studios anyway. So
okay.
Yeah.
Kelton Cram, Google Kelton Cram. I'm sure you got an art station, right?
Yeah, art station.
Art station,
yep.
your website, Kelton Cram. Todd, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Todd was on episode 1. He's one half of Kuma Films. I'll put links to them in the description. Thanks for coming. Thanks for talking about demon tech, aliens, religion, mind control, and a little bit of video games. If you wanted more video game stuff, I'll get Kelton back on. I mean, look, you talked about Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
That's your all-time best game for you,
well,
right?
I didn't talk about the stuff I did on Star Citizen, so I could tell you all about that.
We could talk. We got sidetracked.
Yeah, because I did the Marines and all the suits, and then the protagonist and the antagonist also.
For the single-player campaign? Or the...
this was 4 years ago.
There's a multiplayer one that's out.
Well, basically, the species that's in their universe called the Vandal, which are sort of the antagonist for the whole game.
You worked on them.
Yeah, and then the Marines.
So if you're killing bad guys in Star Citizen and you think they look dope, you can thank Sir Kelton over here for their design. We didn't talk about turtles either, which was
Ninja
for
Turtles.
me. I remember when you first told us, like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm working on the new Turtles movie, I was like, I have a
He's done it.
oh my god,
Made it.
yeah. And didn't you say Raphael was your main character that you spent the
Yeah,
most time on?
Raphael and Leonardo.
Leonardo.
And then me and a couple other artists pretty much got to work on like every character in the film with the director, and that was an awesome time. So yeah, well,
I actually like the design. I know that movie initially got a little beef for the face design, the noses, but I actually
the Michael Bayness went a little far.
You didn't have any say in that, right?
Yeah.
That was
No, he has a certain flair that he puts in his movies, and sometimes people like it or they don't. But
what I liked about those designs. I mean, I never really talked to you, even though I haven't talked to you that much about it, but when I saw the designs and like what I liked the most was the detail in their armors and their trinkets.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is stuff they would actually find in the sewers and hobble, because
Yeah.
they live in the sewers, right? That's the idea.
Yeah.
They grow up in the sewers. They're scavenger. They
Filthy
stay in the
reptiles,
shadows.
yeah.
And their armor looks like everything's like all janky and gross, like things they found in the sewers and
Yeah.
they put together into
I never really
bracelets.
paid attention
if you
to
look at the
that. Yeah, I have
designs,
to look
like
at that.
and like what Michelangelo has on him is like cool pop culture stuff, and then Leonardo.
Yeah, it explains their personality.
It
a
shows their
little bit.
personality in the designs. Yeah.
never really
Leonardo
paid
has
that
like
close attention.
samurai type of stuff because he's the traditional one, even though it's like self-made. And then of
Yeah.
course Michelangelo, like you said, is like into pop, and he's wearing like a wetsuit, surfer
Yeah.
suit. that
Look
he-
at him closely.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't pay more attention to that. I've never-
The actual movie
never
ended
looked
up
into
being
that.
kind of
That's
like is Nickelodeon type like kiddie thing.
Yeah.
It's like I thought you guys nailed the design, but what I wanted as an adult fan was like a darker,
Yeah, of course.
grittier,
Yeah,
Like the
we
first
all-
Turtles
badass
movie.
Ninja Turtles.
Well, it kept going back and forth with making them like lighter and more sellable to kid demographic because the toys is,
That's
and
where
that's
it's
another
at,
thing we could
yeah.
talk about one time is just how much the influence of like the merchandise or the distribution plays into even the
Decisions.
design.
Yeah.
Even that in that early on in the development, they are thinking about how they're gonna sell.
Well, that's where they make a lot of their money.
Yeah.
Is from.
Yeah, maybe one day someone will do like an independent Turtles where it's more grounded and darker and like. Because the original, remember the comic books back in the day, and they all had red.
Yeah,
bandanas?
there was originally a really
Bloody.
dark comic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very.
Bloody.
It was a graphic
Good
novel.
stuff.
All right, Kelton's got to pee. I will put links to all that shit. Thanks, guys. See you later. Thanks for listening to the entirety of the podcast. As always, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thanks to Todd and Kelton. Thanks for checking the podcast out. Again, all the applicable links to their stuff is in the podcast description. And, it's getting late, guys. I'm feeling beat down. I probably smoked a little bit too much of that green of the devil's lettuce. As such, like the last couple weeks, I don't know who's going to be on the podcast next week, but I haven't failed you yet because the gods always provide. I will go and I will do the things the gaming gods command, for I know they will give me no commandment unless they provide a way for me to complete it. Stay tuned next week. I'll have some dope. Until then, see ya. Bye.